The world changed in an instant. Sector 7 was under fire, sirens wailing as the city was torn apart. Missiles streaked across the dark sky, turning the horizon into a wall of fire. Amidst the chaos, a blue glowing stone cut through the atmosphere like a meteor. Chen woke with a start, coughing up blood as a surge of raw energy rocked his body. Inside him, a red core pulsed with life, fueled by that mysterious blue power. Years later at Liang City No. 1 High School, the head examiner tells the assembly that the Hongjai class is their only path to greatness. He explains that the placement exam is split into two parts, academic and martial arts. Out of 750 total points, the physical assessment holds the most weight at 525. He roars for the students to do their best and head into the exam hall. Chen walks with the crowd, thinking that this is his last shot to become a martial artist. He'd spent 2 years in a coma, a long sick leave that left him far behind his peers. Exhaling a cloud of cold air, he knows he has to seize this opportunity. As he walks down the hall, someone notices him from behind. Chen looks over his shoulder as he's called out by name. It's a group of students led by a total jerk, mocking him for even showing up after being away for 2 years. The bully claps a heavy hand on his shoulder, laughing about how anyone thinks they have a shot at the elite class. He gets right in Chen Du's face, asking if he thinks he's some kind of genius. Chen catches the guy's wrist in a crushing grip, telling him to focus on his own test instead. He walks away without a second glance, leaving the group stunned in the hallway. The bully is fuming, wondering where this pushover got the nerve to act so arrogant. His lackey tells him to stay cool. Fighting now will get him disqualified, so they should wait for the martial arts portion. Chen finds his seat in the exam hall, his mind already sharp and focused. Across the room, the bully watches him with a twisted grin, planning to accidentally cripple him during the assessment. The computer terminal lights up with the first question. Describe the world's background and the start of the high martial calendar. The memory hits him. Back in 2842, an otherworldly civilization invaded, and humanity fired their nukes in a desperate retaliation. The war failed, and the death toll exceeded 5 billion. Earth was on the brink of total collapse. But the nuclear radiation triggered something new. Humans began to evolve, breaking through their physical limits. By the year 2860, every adult had reached level 2 life intensity, marking the official start of the high martial era. Legendary figures rose during that war, their names etched into history as the saviors of humanity. The exam moves on to the next question about those crucial heroes. Then it asks about the erroneous policies proposed during the restoration of world order. Chen moves through the questions with ease, his mind working faster than anyone else's. He finishes in record time and clicks the submit button. He leans back, looking entirely unbothered while the rest of the room is still sweating over their answers. Full marks, just as he expected. His time in the strange dimension granted him a photographic memory. The rewards from that space helped awaken his spiritual power, giving him an edge no 2-year sick leave could take away. He knows the academic part is only the beginning. He still needs to prepare for the physical martial arts exam. Chen heads home and announces his return as soon as he walks through the door. As he stepped inside, his exam ticket slipped out of his tracksuit pocket. Chen sister catches it, scolding him for being clumsy and warning him not to lose it. The family gathers for a humble dinner, their father bringing the final dishes to the table. But then his dad pulls out a bottle of vitality powder. Chen is stunned, knowing how much their family had to sacrifice just to afford it. His father holds up a piece of meat with his chopsticks, grinning as he mentions the vitality powder he bought to help Chen exam scores. Chen looks down, feeling the weight of the expense. He tries to tell his dad he doesn't need it to get into the class. His father just claps him on the shoulder, telling him to stop overthinking and that the family will always find a way to support him. A small smile touches Chen face. He knows he can't let his father's sacrifice go to waste. Later that night, he sits on his bed, calculating the cost. 20,000 credits is a fortune for them, and he knows becoming a martial artist is the only way to keep them safe. He settles into a meditative pose, blue energy beginning to swirl around him as he prepares for the real work. The room fades away, replaced by the biting cold of a desolate, icy wasteland. Chen stands in the middle of the frozen plains, a sword embedded in the ground nearby. He explains that ever since he woke from his coma, he enters this crystal space every time he falls asleep. The goal is simple: protect the central crystal from waves of monsters that want to destroy it. If the crystal breaks, he spends the entire next day in a coma. But if he dies defending it, he wakes up feeling stronger than ever. He dodges a massive blow from a white-furred ape monster, his movements sharp and practiced. He delivers a decisive strike, taking down the beast as he notes the benefits of this secret training. System screens pop up in the air, warning him that the next wave of monsters is arriving in 30 seconds. Chen doesn't waste time, slashing through the incoming horde with blinding speed. He leaps into the air, his sword leaving trails of light as he carves a path through the monsters. Blood sprays across the snow as he cleans up the remaining stragglers. He lands heavily, panting with exhaustion and wiping blood from his cheek. He knows he's pushing his limits. He pulls up his personal status panel to check his progress. His stats are improving, but he's not sure if it's enough. His life intensity is at level 5.1, and his flowing light sword style is nearly at the end of Tier 1. The system chimes again. The fifth wave is coming, and it's going to be the toughest one yet. A massive red dragon, also known as the giant lizard, emerges from the shadows, roaring as fire drips from its jaws. The beast lets out a blast of intense flames, forcing Chen to scramble back to avoid being roasted. He recovers quickly, sword drawn and eyes locked on the colossal threat ahead of him. The dragon lunges with a massive claw, tearing up the ground where he was standing just a second ago. A split second later, the creature's tail whips around, a massive weight intended to crush him instantly. Chen weaves through the chaos, narrowly avoiding the lethal strikes as the ground shatters around him. After dying so many times in this space, he's finally starting to read the lizard's attack patterns. He executes a specialized move. The light sword styles breeze under the forest. The strike connects, but the dragon only gets angrier, its eyes glowing as it goes into a berserk frenzy. A heavy blow sends him skidding back, his arm throbbing from the impact. He looks up from a crouch, acknowledging his own carelessness but relieved he's still in the fight. The giant lizard roars again, its massive jaws opening wide to finish him off. Chen grits his teeth and charges forward. He isn't going to lose this time. He tells himself to stay calm, focused on finding that one perfect opening to end it. He leaps high into the air, blue energy flaring as he aims a strike straight at the beast's head. The blade bites deep, light and energy exploding at the point of impact. A massive burst of power rocks the entire arena as the finishing blow lands. Chen grinds his teeth, pouring every ounce of his remaining strength into the sword. The dragon tries to blast him with fire one last time, but he's already inside its guard. He knows his smaller size is finally working for him. He hurled the sword toward the target's head, accompanied by a blinding flash of blue energy. The lizard roars in agony as blood fountains from its head. The fifth wave is over. Chen lunges, his blade glowing as he uses his superior agility to find a gap in the giant lizard's defense. The monster roars in pain as the strike connects, unable to keep up with Chen movements. With a final powerful slash, the beast collapses, crashing into the frozen ground. Chen stands victorious over the fallen dragon, the air still crackling with the energy of his attack. A blue system screen appears before him, congratulating him on successfully defending against 5 waves of monster attacks. His mental power increases by 1 level, and he is awarded a rare prize, the Void Immortal Visualization Method. Chen studies the notification, curious about this new reward. He knows that visualization methods are prized for their ability to actively grow one's mental power. While the system rewards have helped him so far, he understands that a dedicated cultivation method is far more valuable in the long run. Another warning flashes. The next wave of monsters is approaching, and they look far more dangerous than anything he's faced before. He stares into the distance, bracing himself for the next challenge. Legions of shadowy, red-eyed creatures emerge from the gloom, their presence far more oppressive than the previous waves. Realizing their level is significantly higher than his own, Chen decides he won't be able to clear this stage just yet. He decides to focus on the visualization method first, summoning the glowing manual to his hand. As he activates it, the world around him shifts. He finds himself standing on the surface of a dark, ripple-filled sea under a starlit sky. Suddenly, a colossal, shadowy giant looms over him, its multiple red eyes glowing with an ancient, terrifying power. The sheer scale of the visualization giant is overwhelming, its form seeming to consume the horizon. Chen realizes that the visualization is a trial in itself. He must endure the gaze of this cosmic horror to strengthen his mind. Back in the real world, Chen sits in deep meditation on his bed, his body enveloped in a radiant blue aura as he processes the technique. The next morning, his sister bursts into the room to tell him breakfast is ready, catching him by surprise. Chen stands up, pulling on a shirt, but his sister is stunned by the sight of his newfound, incredibly muscular physique. He gives her a confident, slightly smug look, aware of the dramatic changes his body has undergone overnight. He ruffles her hair playfully as she complains about him being too handsome and messing up her hair. She leaves the room blushing, wondering when her brother started looking like a different person. Standing before the mirror, Chen admires the results. The visualization method has reshaped him, and he feels more powerful than ever. He says his goodbyes to his dad and sister, heading out for the most important day of his life, the martial arts exam. He arrives at the Liang City No. 1 high school gymnasium, where hundreds of students have gathered for the assessment. Chen begins to warm up, feeling the fluid power in his limbs and reflecting on how far he's come. His peaceful preparation is interrupted by a familiar, arrogant voice mocking him for showing up after a 2-year absence. Feng Rui, followed by his gang of lackeys, approaches Chen with a sneer, calling him a philanthropist who is only there to secure the bottom rank. Chen doesn't back down, coolly retorting that being last is still better than failing academic lessons like someone he knows. Feng Rui's face contorts with rage at the insult, his arrogant smirk vanishing instantly. Chen remains unfazed, his calm gaze making it clear that he isn't the same easy target he used to be. The unnamed classmate rushes over to pull Chen away, trying to de-escalate the tension before the teachers arrive. Feng Rui watches them leave, his fists clenched as he vows to make Chen pay during the assessment. The unnamed classmate warns Chen that he's in serious trouble for standing up to Feng Rui like that. He explains that Feng Rui has become even more untouchable because his uncle was recently appointed as the school's dean of students. There's more. Rumor has it the dean has already leaked the exam questions to Feng Rui to ensure he takes the top spot. Chen narrows his eyes, realizing he'll have to watch his back for any traps or conspiracies the teachers might have planned. Despite the warning, Chen stays focused. He isn't here to play politics, he's here to win. The unnamed classmate is amazed by how carefree Chen seems as they join the line for the start of the assessment. The exam begins with a strength test. A specialized sandbag is brought out, and the rules are explained. The person with the lowest score in each group will be immediately eliminated. As a drone camera flies overhead, Chen watches the first group prepare. He knows he needs to show just enough strength to pass while saving his real power for the duels. Chen stays composed, his mind focused on utilizing the speed and precision he gained from his visualization training. Nearby, Feng Rui exudes confidence, certain that his raw physical strength will make the assessment a simple formality. The first group's assessment officially begins, a split screen representing the clash between human potential and the monstrous power of visualization. Feng Rui is the first to step up, launching a powerful punch that carries his full weight and arrogant momentum. The sandbag groans under the impact of his blow, the force of the strike sending a dull thud through the gym floor. His followers cheer wildly as the score is revealed, impressed that Feng Rui has already reached nearly 1,400 jin of force. One of Feng Rui's lackeys sneers at Chen convinced that the dropout has no chance of matching such a high score. The air in the room suddenly changes as Chen Du steps up to the mark, his expression unreadable and calm. Without any flashy build-up, Chen Du strikes, his fist moving so fast it's almost a blur as it makes contact with the target. The onlookers are stunned into silence as the monitor displays a record-breaking 1,500 jin, an impossible feat for someone of his level. The unnamed classmate erupts in cheers, his eyes wide with amazement at the incredible display of power from the brother he always believed in. Teacher Ling looks over the test results, and honestly, the math just isn't mathing. A level 5.1 life intensity should cap out at 1,000 jin, but Chen Du somehow hit 1,500. Even the elite students in the Hongjai class can't pull off that kind of efficiency. He can't help but wonder if this kid from the regular track is actually some hidden martial arts prodigy. He calls over his assistant and demands to see Chen Du's full student file immediately. Scanning the papers, Ling sees that Chen Du was out for 2 years on suspension, yet his martial skill tier is already through the roof. It might even be higher than what's on paper now. Down in the gym, Chen Du is just chilling, looking completely unbothered by the eyes on him. A massive crowd has gathered around the combat ring, waiting for the main event of the afternoon. Teacher Ling steps up and calls for the combat duel to begin. He calls out the two fighters, the dark horse Chen Du and his rival Feng Rui. One looks ready for business, the other looks like he's about to commit a crime. The students are buzzing, wondering if Chen Du can actually back up those crazy strength scores in a real fight. Some of them aren't convinced, figuring Feng Rui's actual martial technique will wipe the floor with raw strength alone. Feng Rui walks up with a staff, talking big about how Chen Du's last win was just a fluke. Chen Du just gives him this smug little half-smile, which clearly gets under his skin. The fight kicks off and Feng Rui goes on the offensive, spinning his staff with some serious speed. But Chen Du is right there, parrying every single swing with his practiced sword like it's a choreographed dance. Feng Rui tries to find an opening, but the kid is a brick wall. A strike connects, well would have if Chen Du didn't deflect it perfectly. He pushes back, forcing Feng Rui to scramble and reset his stance. After taking a painful blow, Feng Rui began to lose his patience and found himself cornered, his eyes bloodshot as he prepared to pour all his energy into the next move to save face. He unleashes a barrage of strikes, the air whistling around him from the sheer force. Chen Du stays calm in the center of the storm, blocking every hit with effortless precision. Feng Rui screams for him to just die already and goes for a massive overhead smash. The staff slams into the ground, missing Chen Du by a hair and shattering the floor instead. Chen Du watches him, realizing that fighting people is a lot easier than the monsters he's used to dealing with in that crystal space. He decides he's seen enough and finally swings back. A massive wave of blue energy erupts from his sword, completely overwhelming Feng Rui's defense. He closes the distance in a flash. Feng Rui's face says it all. He knows he's about to have a very bad day. The sword connects, and a powerful shockwave sends the guy flying across the stage. Feng Rui coughs up blood, completely breathless from the impact. In a last-ditch effort, he tries to pull a concealed dagger out of his sleeve while he's still in the air. Chen Du is way ahead of him, disarming the guy before he can even think about using it. A heavy blow lands right on his jaw. Feng Rui hits the mat hard, completely knocked out cold. The rest of the students are speechless, staring at the ring in total disbelief. Teacher Ling signals for the medical team to haul Feng Rui off on a stretcher, while he calls for the next match. As Chen Du tries to walk away, Ling calls him back. The teacher just stands there, giving him a long, hard look. Chen Du bows and apologizes, saying he got a bit carried away and didn't control his strength well. Ling just pats him on the shoulder and tells him that getting banged up in a duel is part of the game. He tells him to go home and get some rest. As Chen Du leaves, Ling thinks about how Feng Rui is a mess while Chen Du doesn't have a single scratch. The skill gap is just insane. He decides this is above his pay grade and tells his AI to get the principal on the line. After finishing his exam, Chen Du strolled over to the virtual training room, thinking to himself that it was still too early to go home, where he would likely be all alone anyway since his family hadn't returned yet. He walks up to his virtual combat capsule, ready to log in and keep refining what he's learned. Chen notes that while he can't afford a pro sparring partner, the school was kind enough to give every student a virtual capsule for practice. The tech is pretty standard. Once you're inside, it pairs you up with martial artists at a similar level for some real-time combat. He hasn't logged in for a while since he's been busy fighting monsters in that crystal space, so his current rank is sitting at a lowly bronze. He knows Feng Rui took a massive L today, and will probably try to pull some strings to keep him out of the Hongjai class. The system records everything on the Blue Star Youth List, basically a global leaderboard used for college entrance exams. It's a huge deal. Even the kids in the elite class struggle to get their names on there. He settles into the capsule, ready to get to work. His plan is simple: climb the rankings high enough that the school has no choice but to admit him to the elite track. The digital world renders around him, a sleek blue space where he can fight without consequences. He figures a quick warm-up match is the best way to shake off the rust. His avatar materializes, and he goes for the most ridiculous look possible, a pig mask. He looks around, wondering where his opponent is, but the arena seems empty. Suddenly, a voice calls him out for being too slow as a purple-haired girl drops in from above. She lunges at him with a needle-thin rapier before he can even blink. She tells him this isn't a school exam. You don't wait for your opponent to say hello before the blades start flying. Chen blocks her next move, telling her he's learned his lesson and won't be giving her any more free openings. The two of them trade a flurry of high-speed strikes, their blades clashing in a blur of motion. Chen lunged forward and shouted the name of his move, Pale Dragon Point Thrust. He thrust the sword straight forward, but his opponent easily sidestepped to dodge the blow. Her opponent was caught off guard by this bizarre tempo, and she wondered why he was so stuck on traditional forms. While fighting, she explained that the best way to utilize martial arts isn't to follow a preset script, but to understand the core of the movement itself. He adjusted his pig mask, his eyes wide as he fully grasped the concept. She wasn't wrong. Why should a sword stroke be limited by a fixed form? He wonders how she even recognized his sword skill through this ridiculous pig avatar. She dives back in, telling him to keep his head in the game. She's incredibly skilled, and for once he can't figure out what kind of foundation she's fighting from. She catches him slipping and delivers a final, decisive blow. He calls her a sneaky camper as his vision fades and the match ends. The scoreboard pops up. Tusk Bear takes the loss, and he's down 10 victory points. He floats in the lobby, reflecting on the fight. He could have just used raw power to win, but her sneak attack really highlighted his flaws. He repeats her words back to himself. Think more about the martial art itself. It's some solid advice. He thinks about his flowing light sword art. He's got 3 forms down, but that Pale Dragon Point Thrust is still a mystery. He realizes the move is more like an assassin's technique than a typical warrior's strike. The problem is his own style is way too straightforward. He's always charging right into the thick of it. He decides to jump right back into a match and test out this new perspective. This time he's matched against a brick wall of a man named Wang Dachui, who's wielding a giant morning star flail. It's basically the worst possible matchup for a sword user. Wang Dachui looks like he's about to flatten the pig-masked kid. Chen doesn't care about the reach disadvantage. He knows his technical skill is leagues ahead of this guy. He launches a new technique, painting the ground as a prison to lock down the big guy's movements. He moves with incredible speed, a blur of motion as he sets up his next attack. Wang Dachui laughs, telling him a sword isn't meant to be used like that, and his extra strength won't save him. He follows up with a move called Golden Drums Ringing to the Heavens, catching the flail user completely off guard. He stares the big guy down through the pig mask and asks, "Is that so?" as his strike connects. Chen executes the breeze in the forest technique, moving with a speed that turns him into a blur of blue light. Wang Dachui is completely overwhelmed, his eyes barely able to track the movement as the arena explodes around him. Before the big guy can even process what's happening, Chen has already vanished from his line of sight and reappeared right behind him. He strikes with the Pale Dragon Point Thrust, a technique that delivers a concentrated, glowing burst of power. The results screen confirms it. Tusk Bear takes the win, and Chen Du's victory points start climbing. He stands there for a second, catching his breath. That was the first time he really managed to nail that specific thrust in a real fight. He starts thinking about the deeper meaning of the sword. What does it actually mean to be skillful with a blade? He realizes it's not just about flashy moves. It's about being ever-changing, shifting between hard and soft, or hidden and visible. A warrior needs to be able to strike like a sudden thunderclap, or flow as smoothly as a mountain stream. The pale dragon point thrust was the final piece of the puzzle, teaching him that the sword can be used for both open honor and secret strikes. The system pings with a notification. His mastery of the flowing light sword art has just jumped up to 90%. He's feeling the momentum and decides that the only way to truly master these arts is to keep fighting until his body remembers the feeling. He dives into match after match, and with every victory, his skill level keeps ticking upward. He finally exits the capsule, feeling like his stomach is trying to eat itself from the sheer physical drain. His wrist device starts buzzing with an alert. He's actually broken into the top 10,000 of the youth list. He stares at the screen in pure shock. He knew he was doing well, but the top 10,000 on the global stage is massive. He pulls up the detailed list and sees his name sitting at 6,219th place worldwide. His hard work is finally showing some real numbers. But the real kicker is his city rank, #1 in Liang City. With a score like that, there's no way anyone can block him from joining the Hongjai class now. Welcome back to Liang City #1 High School. The campus seems quiet, but something's brewing on the main walkway. Chen Du is heading back from his morning training when he gets cut off. It's Feng Liguo, the school's dean of students and the uncle of the guy Chen Du just flattened. He looks like he's out for blood. Chen Du keeps it respectful and gives him a simple greeting. But the dean isn't interested in being polite. He starts barking about a uniform inspection, nitpicking Chen Du's appearance. Chen Du just points out that he is, in fact, wearing the school uniform. A few students start laughing, so the dean shouts for everyone to shut up. The gossip starts flying immediately. Students figure Chen Du is dead meat since the dean's nephew is still in the hospital. Some are even claiming he only won his last fight because he was using banned performance enhancers. Feng Liguo starts poking at Chen Du with his stick, calling every part of his outfit non-compliant. Chen Du is just confused. He's following the rules to a T. The dean finally snaps and takes a swing with his cane. Too slow, Chen Du catches the stick midair like it's nothing, while the dean screams about reporting him to the principal. Little does he know, the principal is standing right behind him. Along with him is Wang Anquin, the mayor of Liang City. The dean thinks he's saved and immediately tries to get Chen Du expelled on the spot. Principal Li Mu doesn't look impressed. He just tells the guy to settle down. Mayor Wang ignores the dean completely and walks straight up to Chen Du. He introduces himself and tells Chen Du they actually came here specifically to see him. Turns out Chen Du's stats didn't just surprise the school. The mayor reveals he's now ranked #1 in the entire city and top 10,000 globally. The dean looks like he just saw a ghost. The crowd is losing it. Ranking that high on the Blue Star Youth list is practically unheard of for a regular student. Suddenly, the rumors about drugs are gone. Now everyone saying he's a shoo-in for the elite Hongjai class. Feng Liguo slumps to the ground, realizing his career might be over for bullying the city's top genius. The principal tells Chen Du to follow them, mentioning that his transfer to the elite class has already been approved. They head into a private meeting room to talk business. 2 other top prospects are already waiting inside. Liu Bo, the city's #2, and Mort, the top dog of the Hongjai class. It's a pretty awkward stare-down between the 3 of them. They've never even met before today. The mayor cuts to the chase. There's a massive tournament coming up for the 100 cities in their district. And since selection is based on last night's rankings, these 3 are the ones chosen to represent the city. It's called the 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament, and it's being held at High City High. Chen Du takes it all in. This is exactly the kind of stage he needs. The mayor asks if they're willing to participate. Mort has a question, though. Since it's all based on rankings, he wonders why they don't just use virtual combat. The mayor explains that the leaders want to see real-world combat effectiveness, though they'll have high-level martial artists on standby for safety. Chen does some quick math. With his current progress, he's confident he can finish in the top 3. Mayor Wang tells them not to feel too much pressure and to just use it as a way to size up their peers. Chen raises his hand first, and the other 2 quickly follow suit. The mayor is pleased. He loves seeing that kind of fire in the youth. But for Chen, it's personal. Winning this tournament means his family never has to worry about money again. Chen mind is already on the big prize, finishing in the top 3 of the upcoming 100 Cities War. But first, he has to actually survive his first day in the elite Hongjai class. He notices something's different right away. The desks aren't assigned. He figures he'll just grab a spot and keep a low profile. But before he could even sit down, a massive hand slammed heavily onto his shoulder. It's Pang Hu, the guy holding 10th place in the class. He towers over Chen and isn't happy about a newcomer taking his spot. He leans in, trying to use his massive frame to intimidate the new kid. He looks more like a grizzly bear than a high schooler, but Chen isn't even flinching. Honestly, the whole schoolyard bully routine feels pretty outdated to him. Just as things are heating up, a guy in a beanie steps in. He tells Pang Hu to cool it, explaining that Chen just hasn't learned the rules yet. Chen is actually impressed. This guy moved so silently he didn't even notice him, and his energy levels are off the charts. For some reason, the big guy listens and backs off, but he makes sure to tell Chen he's only getting a pass this one time. Beanie Guy fills him in on how things work here. Everything is decided by seat numbers, a literal hierarchy of strength. They have monthly battles to determine the order, and if you're in the bottom 10, you don't get a seat at all, you stand for the whole month. Talk about high stakes. The competitive pressure in this class is on a whole different level. Since he just arrived, rankings for the month are already set, but he's allowed to challenge someone to claim a spot. Chen curious, though. Besides not having to stand, he asks if there's any other perk to being ranked higher. Because if the rewards are good, he might actually have to put in some effort. The guy just smiles and says that naturally, the higher the seat, the better the treatment. It turns out the top seats get massive resource subsidies from the school. Hearing the word resources is all it takes. To help his family out of poverty, Chen decides he needs a high-ranking seat immediately. Teacher Ling walks in and tells everyone to head directly to the combat room next door. It's time for class. The combat room is a massive, state-of-the-art arena designed for real fighting. Ling explains the rules. Each student gets 3 challenges, and their final seat will be decided by their performance in these matches. Chen doesn't waste any time. He steps forward with his sword and points right at Pang Hu. He's taking the 10th seat. Even Teacher Ling is taken aback by such a bold move from a newcomer. The rest of the class starts whispering. They think the new guy is either delusional or just flat-out arrogant. Teacher Ling is skeptical too. Chen measured life intensity is way lower than anyone in the top 10. But Chen isn't thinking about the odds. He's thinking about that 50% jump in subsidies between 10th and 11th place. To him, it's a risk that's more than worth taking. Pang Hu finds the whole thing hilarious. He grabs his massive hammer and tells Chen not to come crying to him later. They square off in the center of the arena. "Are you the 10th place?" Chen asks. Pang Hu is grinning like a predator. He thinks he's about to give the new kid a very painful welcome to the class. Teacher Ling signals Pang Hu to gear up and enter the arena. Secretly, Ling is curious. He didn't expect Chen to be so eager to prove himself. He figures even if the kid loses, it'll be a good form of tempering. The match is set. It's a classic David versus Goliath, but David's got a very sharp practice sword. The signal is given. The battle for the 10th seat starts now. Pang Hu is doing what he does best, talking trash and telling Chen to get ready to beg for mercy. Chen doesn't look bothered at all, just casually waiting for the guy to make a move. Chen stands perfectly still, as the giant mace whistles inches from his face. Pang Hu brings his weapon down. convinced that his opponent is just too slow to react. The other students are already calling the fight, thinking the gap in life intensity is way too much for Chen Du to handle. Even their teacher, Lin Yun, is doing a double take at the kid's stats, suddenly hitting 5.2. Pang Hu lets out a laugh, thinking he's already won the match. The giant mace slams down with a loud crash, sending dust and debris everywhere. But when the smoke clears, Pang Hu's jaw drops as he realizes he completely missed his target. Chen Du has already slipped past him, getting into a perfect low stance for a counter. A quick smirk from Chen Du. He's got the bully exactly where he wants him. He strikes upward with a burst of blue energy, hitting Pang Hu with a clean, precise thrust. The impact is so heavy, it launches the massive guy straight into the air like a rag doll. Pang Hu comes crashing back down to earth, landing hard right in front of the shocked crowd. Lin Yun rushes over and grabs Chen Du's hand, recognizing that high-level technique immediately. He's shocked that Chen Du has already reached Tier 1 perfect mastery. The teacher can hardly wrap his head around the fact that the kid grew this much overnight. Chen Du just looks up with a blank expression, wondering what the big deal is. Lin Yun pulls himself together and officially declares Chen Du the winner of the duel. The whole class starts buzzing, unable to believe he just ended a high-level opponent with one hit. Even the class's rank 1 elites who used to look down on him are now forced to realize that he's a true late-blooming genius. Lin Yun asks if he wants to keep going for a higher seat, but Chen Du says he's good with number 10 for now. He figures moving up any further isn't worth the extra effort right now. Better to save his energy. Suddenly, everyone wants to be his best friend, practically shoving their phones in his face to add him on social media. Chen Du just gives them a nervous sure, clearly not used to all this sudden attention. Meanwhile, Pang Hu has done a complete 180, groveling at Chen Du's feet and begging for forgiveness. It's a pretty pathetic sight, but Chen Du just stands there watching the former bully crawl. Lin Yun stays back, watching his student with a new sense of curiosity. He tells Chen Du to meet him in the office after school. There's something they need to talk about. They head to the principal's office, where the man in charge is busy at his desk. Lin Yun cuts straight to the chase, asking if there are still spots left for early special admission to the top universities. The principal is a bit confused, wondering why a regular student would even be asking about that. He explains that the requirements for those schools are insane. You need to be at Tier 1 perfect. He points out that even being just 1% away from that level is a massive hurdle most people never clear. Tired of the talking, Lin Yun tells the principal to just let the kid prove it on a testing dummy. The principal sighs, but points them over to a specialized testing instrument in the corner of the room. Lin Yun tells Chen Du to go ahead and recreate the same attack he used in the duel earlier. Chen Du locks in, his eyes focusing entirely on the target in front of him. He draws his blade with a calm intensity that fills the entire room. He lets out the pale dragon point thrust, and a massive surge of blue energy tears through the dummy. The principal is left holding a smoking, headless machine, completely speechless. He's actually at Tier 1 perfect. Chen Du just rubs the back of his neck, awkwardly apologizing for wrecking the school's equipment. Lin Yun is practically buzzing with excitement, telling the principal that Chen Du's combat instinct is a once-in-a-lifetime find. He's never seen a student with this kind of seasoned aura before, like someone who's survived 1,000 life-and-death battles. Chen Du stands there with a dark, intense look on his face, clutching his sword as he absorbs the praise. The principal is sold, deciding on the spot that Chen Du needs the best training resources the school can offer. He tells Chen Du that if he can manage to rank in the top 3 of the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament, a top university spot is a lock. Chen Du raises his hand, clearly out of the loop on what this early special admission thing actually means. Lin Yun explains that to even get a sniff at the top 8 schools normally, your life intensity has to be at least level 6.5. He points out that hitting that mark before the entrance exam is next to impossible for most students. But with special admission, all he needs is to hit Tier 1 perfect in martial skills a month before the big test. The top martial arts universities are already planning to send scouts to watch him during the tournament. Chen asks if passing this early admission means he can't look at any other schools later on. He admits that his dream is actually to attend Mount Huang Martial Arts University. Lin Yun is surprised, since the resources at the top schools are all pretty much the same. Why settle for Mount Huang? The question triggers a memory of 6 years ago, when the Cloud Thunder District was blindsided by a brutal attack from the giant race. Even though help arrived, the lack of immediate manpower led to hundreds of thousands of lives being lost in the chaos. The scale of the destruction was unimaginable, leaving the city in ruins. The image of his home reduced to rubble is something Chen can never forget. All he wants is to make sure his family stays safe and never has to live through that kind of nightmare again. If Liang City ever faces another crisis, he wants to be strong enough to be the one who saves them. Lin Yun looks at him with newfound respect, seeing a kid who's ready to shoulder a massive responsibility. He realizes that Chen isn't just fighting for himself, he's fighting for everyone he loves. It's rare to see someone so young with that level of awareness and selflessness. Chen asks if he can just use the special admission schools as a safety net in case Mount Huang doesn't work out. The principal shakes his head, explaining that once you pass special admission, you have to sign a binding contract with that school. He warns Chen not to gamble with his future, because the regular path is way more punishing. Chen thanks them both and promises to think it over carefully. Walking through the school gates, he realizes he still has over a month before the tournament even starts. He decides to live in the school's exclusive martial arts room to focus entirely on getting stronger. To speed things up, he's planning to use some high-grade medicine from the Technology Martial Palace to boost his life intensity. The world is protected by 3 major forces that cooperate to keep humanity alive. First, there's the Extreme Martial Palace, which handles the direct confrontations with alien civilizations. Then there's the Technology Martial Palace, which is all about boosting humanity's overall physical and martial potential. Finally, the Martial Artist Alliance is responsible for keeping order within human society. The Technology Martial Palace was founded by Durags, a legendary figure who's considered the second strongest human alive. Chen arrives at the palace pharmacy, where a receptionist is ready to help him with his purchase. He asks for 3 boxes of Thunder Chi Blood pills, which catches the receptionist off guard. She explains that these aren't just over-the-counter vitamins. He has to pass an endurance test before they can even sell them to him. These pills are incredibly powerful but dangerous, with properties that can wreak havoc on a person's meridians. If you can't stay focused for 30 minutes after taking it, the thunder in the medicine can turn chaotic and put your life at risk. She leads him into a testing room to make sure he can handle the strain without any accidents. She tells him she's about to start the test and asks if he's ready to go. Chen looks calm as ever, giving her a simple nod and telling her he's good to start. Chen stands before the console, finishing his endurance test as the receptionist watches with a puzzled look. The receptionist is left staring at the screen in complete shock as Chen casually strolls away, unfazed. As he leaves, she's already on the phone with the technical department, convinced the test machine must be malfunctioning. Back in his private martial arts room at school, Chen reviews the strict guidelines for the Thunder Chi Blood pills. He looks down at the pills, thinking the store's test was a total cakewalk since it was only half the intensity of a single dose. He figures if he takes 3 at once, the pain might be 10 times worse, but it should still be manageable for him. He swallows them, and his eyes immediately bulge as the manageable pain hits him like a high-speed freight train. Violent arcs of blue lightning erupt from his body, and he lets out a guttural scream of pure, unadulterated agony. Covered in sweat and still sparking with electricity, he forces a pained grin, asking himself if that's all the medicine has got. He lets out a long, shaky breath as the surge finally starts to settle into his system, leaving him exhausted. A system notification pops up, confirming that his life intensity has jumped from 5.2 to 5.3 in one go. He's pumped to be one step closer to level 6.5, thinking he might skip the early admission path if he keeps growing this fast. He checks his remaining pills and his bank balance, realizing he only has enough to sustain this pace for about 10 days. He sighs, knowing he absolutely has to secure a top 2 spot in the tournament to afford the resources he needs to keep developing. The physical toll is immense. His body is temporarily paralyzed and ravaged by the lingering thunder power inside him. Since his body is out of commission for now, he decides to shift his focus to mental training in the crystal space. He clenches his fists as his consciousness begins to drift into the visualization realm, ready for more combat. After a full night of fighting giants in his mind, he feels his mental power has reached a whole new level of strength. He gets back on his feet, feeling refreshed and ready to put his improved stats and combat skills to the test. He visualizes massive, shadowy giants and tears through them with blinding speed and lethal precision. With the school's resource subsidy finally hitting his account, Chen is more than ready to head back to class and show off his progress. The scene shifts to the Hongjai class, where the city's top-tier students are gathered. Teacher Yadai starts the lesson, introducing the concept of mental power attachment. It's a specialized course, usually reserved for those who have already reached Tier 2 in mental strength. The students are already intimidated, knowing the teacher's own life intensity is at a staggering level. Yadai explains that while martial skills build physical strength, mastering your mind makes those skills twice as effective. She points out that without focus, physical energy just scatters throughout the body instead of being utilized. Proper mental control allows you to concentrate all that excess energy into explosive power. That's the core of mental power attachment, making every fiber of your body work in perfect sync. Chen notices the rest of the class doesn't seem surprised, figuring they've already mastered this in private. The teacher reminds them that until their mental power reaches Tier 10, they can only mobilize a fraction of their strength. She suggests they shouldn't spend too much time on it yet, as life intensity is still the priority for their exams. With a flick of her hand, she summons a flute and orders everyone to stand up. She's about to play the Song of Exhaustion to test their mental grit and see if they've improved since last term. She looks directly at Chen and tells him he doesn't have to join in since he's new. Chen realizes she's just trying to save him from falling over immediately in front of everyone. He thinks she's underestimating him, assuming he only has Tier 1 mental power. He speaks up, surprising her by insisting that he wants to participate. Yadai gives a small, challenging smile and tells him to go ahead. She thinks he's being a bit too competitive for his own good, assuming he'll struggle just like the others. She plans to keep him behind for some counseling after he inevitably fails the test. She brings the flute to her lips, warning the class that the song will drain them both mentally and physically. The elite students shout their readiness, looking confident that they can handle the pressure. They're practically glowing with pride, eager to show off their superiority. The music begins, swirling around the room in waves of thick, purple spiritual energy. Chen feels the mental weight of the melody as it starts to press down on him. Suddenly, a shadowy phantom manifests in front of him, a physical hallucination triggered by the music. The illusion attacks, and Chen has to react to the phantom's speed. The illusion unleashed a powerful, devastating kick, and as Chen blocked the blow, he realized this spiritual hypnosis felt incredibly, mind-blowingly real. Despite the onslaught, he remains focused, his eyes calm and tracking the fake opponent. Yadai is shocked to see him holding his ground so easily, looking completely unbothered. He even goes as far as closing his eyes, showing he's in total control of his senses. She admits that his mental resilience is far tougher than she ever expected. Wanting to see where his limit is, she decides to push the spiritual power up another level. The increased pressure is too much for the others, who begin to collapse and gasp for air. She notes that at this point, almost everyone in the class is reaching their breaking point. She shifts her gaze back to Chen fully expecting to see him buckling under the strain. To her utter disbelief, he's still standing there, barely breaking a sweat. She wonders how someone from a poor background could possibly have such immense spiritual talent. It's rare to see someone gifted in both physical martial skills and pure mental power. Even Pang, who is laughing from the floor, feeling a bit better about his own loss now that he sees what Chen Du is capable of. The spiritual energy reaches its peak, a final crushing wave of pressure. While the top students grovel on the floor, they realize Chen Du is talented enough to compete at the highest elite levels. Yadai is absolutely floored. Mo Late, the class rank number 1, went down at level 6, but Chen Du is still standing at level 7. She decides to crank the intensity up to level 8 to see what he's really made of. Chen Du is feeling the burn, but he refuses to buckle under the strain. The visualization giant towers over him, a physical manifestation of the mental pressure trying to crush him. He fights back against the phantom, every strike feeling like a real physical struggle. The weight of the spiritual attack is immense, threatening to break his resolve. He grits his teeth, sweat dripping as he realizes just how heavy this pressure is. He lets out a sharp breath, his body straining to keep up with his spirit. Yadai watches in awe, thinking it's a miracle that someone's mental power can outstrip their physical stats like this. She realizes that with his martial skill and spiritual immunity, he'd be a nightmare on the battlefield. To her, he looks like the perfect warrior to send against the Big Eye civilization. Later, news of Chen Du's dual talent travels quickly through the school halls. Yadai confirms her findings with Lin Yun, still sounding a bit breathless from what she just witnessed. In his office, the principal is so shocked his hair practically stands on end. Ms. Yadai simply couldn't believe her eyes, knowing that a mid-tier school like theirs was about to produce a future level 20 skywalking warrior. The principal noted that warriors of this caliber are 1 in a million, and Chen Du is simply too much of a genius for the standards of a regular academy. He thinks the kid belongs in one of the 3 elite martial academies, where only the top-tier candidates are even considered. He tells Lin Yun that Black Dragon University is starting their freshman selection in Cyber City after the tournament. Lin Yun nods, taking on the responsibility of convincing Chen Du to go for it. A little while later, Chen Du heads into the school's main office. He wonders why his teacher called him in for a private meeting so soon. Lin Yun gets straight to the point, asking if he's heard of Black Dragon University. He explains that schools like that don't look at exam scores. They only want geniuses who have a shot at becoming skywalking warriors. These elite warriors hold a status that's basically transcendent in their world. But the bar is incredibly high. You need nearly perfect life strength and advanced martial mastery. Lin Yun points out that even among high school warriors, reaching that level is rare without expensive supplements. He asks Chen Du if he's really thought about the sacrifices needed to maintain that kind of growth. Chen Du goes quiet for a moment, weighing the gravity of the choice. Finally, he looks up and tells Lin Yun he's going to aim for the Black Dragon selection. Deep down, he's torn. The gamble of leaving for Cyber City could mean saying goodbye to his family for good. Lin Yun is pleased with his resolve, assuring him that with his current skills, the top schools are practically guaranteed. He tells Chen Du to use the other great schools as a safety net, while he pushes for the absolute elite. There's still a month left before the tournament, and the teacher wants him focused entirely on that for now. The sun rises the next morning over the city. At home, the smell of breakfast fills the air as Chen Du prepares for the day. His sister watches him eat, a skeptical look on her face. She can't put her finger on it, but her brother feels completely different lately, stronger and more mysterious. Chen Du drops the news that he's moving into the school dorms, starting today, to focus entirely on his training. His mom looks worried, fearing that pushing himself too hard might send him back into a coma. His sister asks how he even got a room, since housing was supposed to be arranged before the term started. He gives her a small smile, reassuring her that the school is giving him all the resources he needs. He explains that as a Hongjai class student, he gets his own private chamber to train and rest. His dad gives him a look of pride, telling him to keep that drive and not to hesitate if he needs anything from home. Chen Du's father gives him a firm, encouraging look, telling him to just charge ahead with everything he's got. Chen Du slings his bag over his shoulder, finishing his breakfast and announcing that he's heading out to start his new training regime. His whole family cheers him on from the table, his dad telling him to work hard, his mom wishing him well, and his sister demanding he come home with a first-place trophy. Back at the school campus, and things are looking pretty quiet on the field today. Chen is doing a quick inventory, checking his stash of chi blood pills and milk before getting started. He figures all these school-provided resources are worth at least 50 grand. Man, martial arts really is a rich man's game. No time to waste, though. He punches in the settings to start his private session. He heads into the training hall, backpack still on, ready to put in the work. He calls out to his AI, Little Bear, to crank the gravity up to 5 times the normal level. The pressure hits him like 15 adult elephants, but Chen just thinks it's getting interesting. The martial arts training machine powers up all 4 arms, and it's time for round 4 of practice. A massive metal fist comes flying in, looking to take his head clean off. He knows he can't take these hits head-on. One wrong move in this gravity and he's looking at torn muscles or worse. He shifts his weight, sliding under the attack just in time. The machine's red eyes glow as it calculates his evasion efficiency. Apparently, he's moving too much and wasting energy. It switches tactics, attacking from the top and bottom simultaneously to trap him. Chen just smiles. If he can't dodge, he's going to make the machine feel that gravity too. He slams his foot down, anchoring himself for a heavy counterattack. A massive shockwave rips through the room as he delivers a powerful slash. The machine takes a knee, smoke pouring out of its joints from the impact. But it's not done yet. It triggers its last resort protocol. Suddenly, its limbs stretch out like tentacles, wrapping around him before he can react. He can't believe it's cheating like this. He's caught in a literal death grip, completely immobilized by the machine's limbs. He tells Little Bear to end the gravity state. His body has reached its limit, and he needs a breather. With his body spent, he decides to focus on his mental power next. He enters his mental space, standing like a speck before a massive shadow. The visualization giant looms over him, a terrifying mountain of pressure. He pushes through the mental strain, his aura flaring as he grinds for more power. It works. His mental power ticks up another 0.3 levels. But when he tries to snap out of it, his leg has completely fallen asleep. He's totally drained. His mind is fried and his body is nowhere near recovered. Forget it, he just flops onto the floor to catch some sleep right there. He closes his eyes, sinking into a deep rest. Next thing he knows, he's in the crystal space, ready to polish his sword skills. A heavy thud echoes through the landscape as something big approaches. A pack of green firefly giants emerges. Last time, he couldn't even take one of these guys down. But he's not that same guy anymore. He draws his blade, ready for a rematch. He lets his energy flow, his sword glowing with a sharp blue aura. He realizes those green patches on them are actually healing energy, not just marks. These giants are just big bags of HP. Destroy the healing patches first, and they're nothing to worry about. He blurs forward, his speed leaving a trail as he targets the weak points. Without that heavy gravity holding him back, his body control feels better than ever in a normal environment. He leaps high into the air, coming down with a finishing blow. He puts everything into the strike, aiming to end this fight right now. The giant stands no chance as he cleaves through it, finishing it in a single flash. Chen feels light and agile now that the gravity training is over. He's ready to continue later, but for now, he feels great. If he keeps training like this, he's confident he can break into the top 3 of the upcoming tournament. They finally arrive at High City for the highly anticipated 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament. The hotel is way more luxurious than anything Chen has seen before. It's his first time in a place like this. Suddenly, he hears a commotion at the registration desk about someone not being allowed to sign in. A guy with a ponytail is causing a massive commotion throughout the entire registration area. It's Wu Zhang from Lu City, and he is absolutely losing it on the staff. He claims he arrived on time and wants an explanation. The guy is terrifyingly aggressive, looming over the receptionist who can barely handle the pressure. He grips his sword, looking like he's actually about to draw it right there in the lobby. The crowd is panicked, wondering if this guy is really going to hurt someone over a registration error. Chen can feel it. This guy's sword intent is incredibly strong, easily on par with his own level. Even the other students are shocked that such a crude guy has reached such a high level of martial skill. But then a calm voice cuts through the tension from above. It's Jo Xiaogu, the Sea Princess. She tells the staff to let him register solo and just consider his late teammates as forfeited. The crowd goes wild. She's even more beautiful in person than in the photos they've seen online. His buddy suggests he give up immediately. She's way out of his league. Apparently, she's the daughter of a principal, super wealthy, and a top-tier talent. She's a true favored daughter of heaven. But Chen recognizes her. That face matches his virtual opponent perfectly. She's the little girl who sold nuclear bombs, the sneaky attacker from his virtual battle. He thought it was just a system-generated avatar, not someone who actually existed in real life. Liu Bo has to snap him out of his trance before he starts daydreaming. Chen remembers her martial skill was already at first-stage perfection back then, even ahead of him. He wonders how much stronger she's gotten since. Coming to this tournament was definitely a good call. Later, the team settles into room 301 for a final briefing. Tea is served as they prepare for the official breakdown of the tournament rules. The team leaders announce a twist. This year, there's an additional badge capture battle before the elimination rounds. Chen wants to know the exact details of these new rules. Teacher Lin Yun explains that the tournament will last 3 days and consist of 3 grueling rounds. The first round starts tomorrow in a forest. Within 13 hours, they have to collect Gao and Wu badges. After grabbing the badges, they have to reach the endpoint. The number of teammates who make it determines if the team passes. Chen asks how many of these badges are actually out there. There are 50 of each, meaning only 50 teams can pass. At least half of the participants will be cut on day 1. The second round is a 1v1 elimination tournament with almost 0 time to rest. 150 people will be cut down to the top 10 in just 1 day. Opponents are random, but teammates won't fight each other yet. His teammates are relieved they won't have to face that monster, Chen in the bracket. The third round is the top 10 battle. Reaching this stage means rewards and bonus points are guaranteed. But staying in top shape through 3 days of injuries and constant fighting is the real challenge. The winner might not be the absolute strongest individual, but they'll be the most well-rounded overall. Lin Yun raises a finger. There's one last critical rule. Killing is strictly forbidden. Their real enemies are alien civilizations, not each other. He makes it clear, never point your blade at your companions. Everyone will wear special suits to equalize life force levels, and team leaders will be secretly monitoring for safety. Lin Yun leaves them with one final reminder. While he's there for their safety, any intervention on his part means the team is disqualified. He tells them to believe in themselves for the battles tomorrow. Chen and his teammates respond with a thunderous shout of agreement, their determination burning bright as they prepare for the tournament's first round. We're at Heicheng No. 1 High School, where things are about to get serious. Chen stares out at a massive wooded area, surprised that they're actually looking at a forest. Principal Zhou Cheng steps up to the mic, introducing himself as one of the big bosses running this tournament. He gestures toward a massive wall, explaining that the gate leads straight into a dimensional rift. This specific zone is called the Forest of Wolf Spirits, and it's a level 1 spirit realm meant for beginners. The protagonist knows the deal. Spirit realms are alien spaces crawling with monsters and 0 human residents. Zhou Cheng assures the nervous crowd that the space is stable and won't just collapse on them. Apparently, the place was personally cleared by the world's 3rd strongest warrior, so it's as safe as a monster-filled forest can be. But even with a safety certification, the principal warns them that there's still a real risk of dying out there. One student, Wu Zhang, is told he can't just go off on his own. He has to be assigned a team based on his power level. Watching from the side, the boy in the tracksuit notices that the lone swordsman looks like he's already sick of everyone. The principal scans his eye for iris recognition to unlock the gateway. He tells the students to get ready because it's time to head in. A massive, glowing magic array lights up on the floor beneath the entire group. Chen explains that this complex array is their only way in and out, since the realm's location is a total secret. It's also their emergency exit, designed to pull them out even if the rift itself shuts down. Each team is about to be randomly dropped at one of 1,000 different points across the woods. The goal is simple. Find one of the 300 markers, but only 100 of them actually have real badges. The array begins to hum with power as it fully activates. In a flash of blinding light, the students are instantly warped away. Chen shields his eyes as the teleportation finishes. He finds himself standing in the middle of a misty, ancient-looking forest. His teammate looks around, wondering which marker they should track down first. Liu Bo checks his device and realizes they're in luck. There's a marker right next to their landing spot. The other member of the trio gives a thumbs up, ready to move. The three of them push through the thick brush toward their first objective. They find a tall stone pillar hidden among the trees. A small slot opens up on the side of the monolith with a metallic click. A glowing blue screen appears, prompting them to enter their info. Someone reaches out and taps the button to see if they've hit the jackpot. The bowl-cut kid is thrilled. They actually found a real badge on their very first try. Suddenly, the protagonist's expression shifts as he senses something coming. His teammate screams a warning just as a blur of silver streaks toward them. Two heavy spears slam into the dirt right where the group was standing. Chen draws his blade, calmly admitting that he didn't expect anyone to beat them to the punch. An attacker lands on top of the stone marker, looking down at them. It's a group from Kun City, and their leader demands they hand over their badges if they don't want to be eliminated. These guys are from a much bigger city, and in this world, bigger cities usually mean way more dangerous students. Back in the main auditorium, the audience watches the confrontation play out on the big screens. Cao Yan is having a blast, laughing as he offers to pay for the losing school's plane tickets home. The Liang City principal is sweating bullets, cursing his luck for running into Kun City in the very first round. Meanwhile, Chen just smirks, wondering if this guy really thinks he's in any position to be making threats. The intruder scowls, telling the group they'd better just hand over their badge if they know what's good for them. Chen shoots back a confident smirk, asking if they really think a big city name makes them any stronger. The leader of the Kun City team draws his blade, clearly done with the talking. He lunges forward with a spear, declaring that these kids will be the very first ones kicked out of the tournament. The attacker, Li Yuan, shouts that his personal strength is what really matters, and he's destined to be the top spearman in his city. Chen two teammates were absolutely furious upon hearing that crowd's provocation, daring the small-town kids to just step up and try to fight back. Chen tells his own team to just stay back and let him handle things. He steps forward alone, facing down the entire opposing team as they prepare a massive high-speed spear technique. The Kun City trio jumps into the air, multiple spears raining down on him at once. With a series of rapid-fire strikes, the protagonist parries every single one of them in midair. Li Yuan lands, completely shocked that a single sword was enough to stop all their combined power. The boy's grip on his weapon is like iron. His arm doesn't even shake from the impact. The spearman can't believe it. Everyone here is supposed to be at the same level, so why is this guy so much faster? Chen narrows his eyes, realizing that while Li Yuan is decent, his teammates are just dead weight. He activates his level 9 mental power, focusing everything into his next move. A massive shockwave erupts as he unleashes a devastating upward strike. The sheer pressure of the attack sends the entire opposing team flying backward. Li Yuan gasps as he struggles to keep his footing after that absolute monster of a hit. The dust settles, showing just how much force the boy put into that one-handed parry. The two Kun City lackeys are knocked out cold, while their leader is left panting, barely able to hold his spear. Li Yuan grinds his teeth, terrified that a nobody like this could have such overwhelming raw strength. Chen Du doesn't give him a second to breathe. He knows he needs to end the strongest threat right now. He preps his flowing light sword art for a finishing blow that'll leave no room for doubt. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and catches the blade with just 2 fingers. It's teacher Lin Bei, who steps in to stop the fight before things get lethal. Li Yuan is still shaking, desperately yelling that he can still fight, but he's clearly done for. The instructor shuts him down, pointing out that Chen Du's power is already at a professional level. He tells the spearman that even if he'd blocked that last hit, he wouldn't have survived the next one. Lin Bei watches the protagonist walk away, realizing this kid is a much bigger threat than anyone realized. Teacher Lin Yun, sports a head of bright red hair, stood hidden in the shadows witnessing the entire event, smiling as he overheard Lin Bei expressing immense interest in that newly revealed, hidden genius. Li Yuan calls out one last time, demanding to know the name of the guy who actually managed to make him submit. The boy just smirks, telling him he'll see his name at the very top of the leaderboard when this is all over. Back in the auditorium, the entire audience is stunned as the replay of the knockout finish plays on the big screen. Cao Yan is having a meltdown, while the other principal can finally relax and start laughing at him. One of the observers is impressed, noting that there are already 4 students this year who have reached Tier 1 Perfect status. The crowd is confused why Chen Du's team is heading toward the exit with only 1 badge. They're asking if they're trying to get disqualified. Deep in the forest of wolf spirits, the misty trees hide the next phase of the tournament. Liu Bo is freaking out, asking if they're really going to try and ambush the top-seeded player, Wu Zhang. The protagonist looks back over his shoulder, calmly stating that getting a few badges isn't a challenge for him. His teammates can only nod in stunned silence at the absolute confidence in his eyes. Chen Du is focused on one thing, winning the entire championship, no matter who stands in his way. He admits he doesn't care about the fame. He just desperately needs that 1 million prize money to survive. Chen Du holds up 3 fingers, ready to break down the current state of the tournament for his team. He lists the top-seeded players, Zhou Xiaogu and Zhangshan from the High City team, and Wu Zhang from the Liu City team. Liu Bo questions the plan, wondering if they're just doing the High City team's dirty work by taking out a rival like Wu Zhang. Chen Du explains that his own path to the top 3 is blocked by these elites, and he needs to strike now to even stand a chance. He suspects the tournament bracket might be rigged in favor of the host city, High City, to ensure their players reach the finals easily. His gaze hardens as he considers the sheer difficulty of the task ahead of him. He calculates that regardless of who wins the next round, he'll eventually have to face the powerhouses of High City back-to-back. Standing alone in his mental landscape, Chen Du wonders if he truly has what it takes to defeat 3 Tier 1 Perfect experts in just 2 days. Mo Late and Liu Bo are starting to think Chen Du is a bit too intense. Hunting down a monster like Wu Zhang right out of the gate feels like a death wish. Chen Du doesn't deny it's a huge risk. If they mess up and lose now, their entire tournament is over before it even gets interesting. The team knows they aren't exactly the heavy hitters of this competition. They're just curious how he plans on tracking anyone down in this massive forest. Chen Du's got it all mapped out. He knows Wu Zhang is too arrogant to hide, so he'll definitely be camping out in the areas with the highest badge count. The strategy is simple. Find the path to the exit and intercept him right when he's finished doing the hard work. They move deeper into the foggy woods, keeping their eyes peeled for any signs of movement. The team stops at the edge of a ridge, something going down in the clearing below. A group of students is backed into a corner, struggling against a massive creature that's radiating a dangerous aura. Chen Du recognizes it instantly. It's a Bibai wolf, a monster he's only ever seen inside the virtual crystal space. The beast is a total nightmare, lunging forward with glowing red eyes and claws meant for shredding. Chen Du's mind is racing. If these things are showing up out here, it means his training might be more relevant than he thought. Down below, Xiaomai tries to hold her ground with a whip, cursing Wu Zhang for the mess they're in. The wolf strikes with a blast of force that knocks the girl right off her feet. It bares its teeth, ready to finish her off. But Chen Du is faster. He drops in with a flash of blue energy, saving Xiaomai so quickly she thinks an instructor has stepped in. He stands between her and the beast, looking completely unfazed as the energy settles around him. Once the threat is neutralized, he checks on her, still focused on finding his target. Molate helps the injured girl up while she explains what happened. Apparently, they saw Wu Zhang taking on 10 monsters just like that one. They were trying to get away, but that wolf chased them all the way out here. Xiaomai points toward the thickest part of the forest, claiming the battle is happening just over there. Something feels off. Chen remembers that there shouldn't be any badge marks in that direction at all. But he realizes it's an opening. If Wu Zhang is actually fighting that many monsters, his stamina has to be hitting 0. It's the perfect time to strike. He gives the order to move, and the team takes off into the mist. As they run, Molate asks if he's actually got a concrete battle plan for when they get there. Xiaomai leads the way, pointing out the trail they used to escape. Chengdu's expression hardens. He's getting a really bad vibe from this place and tells everyone to stay on his heels. Molate and Liu Bo nod, looking more nervous by the second as the woods get darker. They charge through the brush, leaves swirling around them in the cold wind. Deep in the shadows, a predator is watching. It tracks their every move with a single glowing eye. They step into a clearing, their breathing the only sound in the eerie quiet. Liu Bo stops and looks around. They've been running for ages and haven't seen any signs of a battle. Chengdu skids to a halt, his instincts finally catching up to the situation. He realizes it too late. They weren't finding Wu Zhang. They were being lured into a trap. Shadows start shifting in the trees. Molate panics as he sees the pack closing in. The story about Wu Zhang was bait. He isn't anywhere near this path. Someone used the badges to point them this way. Hopping the wolves would kill them so they could just pick up the loot later. They're completely surrounded. It's a full-blown den, and there are at least 20 of them. Chengdu doesn't flinch. These wolves are even stronger than the ones in the crystal space, but he's ready for them. He draws his sword, his eyes glowing with focus. He gives the team one rule: do not let them draw blood. These monsters will use the spikes on their claws to tear them apart, and they'll go into a berserk frenzy the moment they smell blood. One of the wolves lunges out of the shadows, aiming straight for his throat. Chengdu doesn't hesitate, meeting the beast head-on with a massive, energy-charged strike. Watching from the auditorium, the observers are in disbelief. The Liang City team didn't just stumble into trouble. They walked straight into a medium-sized wolf den. Everyone's already counting them out, thinking they'll be eliminated before they can even settle into the match. To the crowd, it's a guaranteed loss. They think only a top-tier team like the one from High City would have any hope of surviving an ambush by 20 native wolves. The people in the stands are starting to worry that Chengdu and his teammates won't even make it past the first round at this rate. It's a complete disaster. One official turns to Principal Zhou, asking what he thinks the odds are. Facing 20 Bibai wolves isn't just a challenge, it's a meat grinder for students. The answer is grim, less than 10%. The odds of them getting out of there are practically non-existent. The tournament organizers didn't make it easy on purpose. This first stage was designed to crush the geniuses and show them what real devastation looks like. The goal is to force these future martial artists to face the harsh reality of the world outside their comfortable cities, a world overrun by monsters. Usually, students can avoid the beast wolves if they stay away from the dens, but the Liang City team followed the navigation blindly. The badges were placed behind these seemingly safe dens as a test. If students don't use their heads, they walk right into a slaughterhouse. An official notes that encountering a few wolves isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's good practice. But 20, that's just bad luck. They continue to watch the feed, pitying the Liang City team for their misfortune. Surviving a pack of 20 level 5 to 7 wolves is a tall order for any student. They wonder if the elite High City team would fare any better if they were in the same position. Principal Zhou is confident in his city's elite, like Zhou Xiaogu and Zhangshan. He believes even a large den wouldn't be enough to stop them. Back in the forest, Chengdu is a blur of blue energy. He dismisses his attackers as being too weak to even take a single blow. A wolf lunges, but its head is clean off before it can even realize what happened. Chen is playing on a completely different level. He's focused on drawing the heat. As long as he keeps most of the pack on him and they don't go berserk, he figures his teammates can handle the stragglers. Mo Late and Liu Bo are backed up against a rock, calling out for Chen as more wolves emerge from the shadows. Mo Late knows they need to clear out the ones around them as fast as possible so they can go help their leader. He's pushing himself to the limit. It's a desperate struggle. Mo Late shouts out the plan. They each take 3 and hope they can survive the exchange. He unleashes a powerful area of effect strike, slamming the ground with enough force to keep the beasts at bay for a few seconds. Chen shifts into the second stance of the flowing light sword art, golden drums ringing to the heavens. The air crackles with energy as he moves. A massive arc of orange light carves through a wolf, nearly splitting it in two. The sheer power of his technique is overwhelming. He doesn't stop there, immediately transitioning into the third stance. Breeze in the forest. Red lines of force crisscross the air as he strikes multiple targets at once. More wolves close in from above, their eyes glowing with a murderous intent. They aren't backing down despite the casualties. Chen goes for the fourth form, Azure Dragon Precision Thrust. He's a blue phantom diving into the thick of the pack with lethal accuracy. He knows these monsters like the back of his hand after killing thousands of them in the crystal space. Every movement they make is predictable to him. He's frustrated with himself. Despite his training, he still feels like he's missing something to truly dominate this encounter. Mo Late is reaching his breaking point. He's always been at the top of his class, but here, he feels like nothing more than a burden to his teammate. Chen keeps a close watch on the pack's power levels. Most are level 5, but the strongest among them is pushing level 6.5. He's the only one who can handle that kind of heat. Even with his level 7 life intensity, he's having trouble going on the offensive because the wolves are keeping their distance, waiting for him to make a mistake. Liu Bo is struggling just to stay in the fight against 3 of them, which means he has 0 capacity to back Mo Late up. The team's coordination is falling apart. Chen grits his teeth. He can feel the limit of his current power and speed. He's just a hair away from what he needs to end this. He calculates he needs another 1% improvement in his technique. If his sword were just slightly faster, he could clear a path for his team to escape. A massive wolf lunges with a roar, its claws outstretched and glowing with red energy. It's sensing the team's exhaustion. Blue slashes fill the air as Chen parries the assault. The speed of the encounter is becoming a blur of light and steel. They're running out of time. Chen figures they have 2 minutes to drop the pack size to single digits, or they'll be overwhelmed for good. His focus is absolute. He's pushing his body to move faster than it ever has, every nerve ending screaming as he channels his spiritual energy. A flash of red energy nearly catches him off guard. The wolves are starting to coordinate their strikes, and the gap in his defense is narrowing. Another wolf is sent flying by a perfectly timed counter. Chen eyes are locked on the next target before the first one even hits the ground. He's holding the balance, but it's precarious. One slip-up from any of them and it's all over. He just needs to keep this up a little longer. Suddenly, disaster strikes. Mo Late shouts out in pain. One of the wolves managed to get past his guard and slash his arm. Mo Late clutches his bleeding arm as he falls back, the scent of blood immediately causing the surrounding wolves to twitch with a new, terrifying energy. The pack has finally found what they were waiting for. Mo Late is mortified, stammering an apology for his mistake. He knows he's just made the situation infinitely worse for everyone. Chen eyes flare with an icy blue light. He barks out a command, telling his teammates to get out of there immediately. The smell of blood is a trigger. The wolves are about to go into a berserk frenzy. Mo Late and Liu Bo hesitate, their faces pale with fear and guilt. They don't want to leave their leader behind to face a dozen crazed beasts alone. The first of the berserk wolves lunges, its body glowing with a malevolent red aura. It's faster and stronger than before, its only instinct to tear into the nearest living thing. Chen is a blur of motion, intercepting the beast in midair. Blue energy crackles from his hands as he slams his knee into the wolf's chest, the impact sending out a shockwave of spiritual power. He pins the massive creature to the ground, the force of his landing cratering the earth. Even as he fights, his mind is clear, focused on the tactical situation. Chen stands his ground, unsheathing his sword with a grim determination. He tells his friends that he'll hold them off and that an instructor is nearby, so he'll be fine. He insists it's their only chance to qualify. Mo Late and Liu Bo finally break, turning to run as fast as they can. They know he's right, they're only a liability to him now. Chen watches them go, the weight of the battle finally resting solely on his shoulders. He stands alone against the pack. In their berserk state, the Bibai wolves gain a massive boost to their physical attributes, but they lose all sense of reason. They'll attack anything that moves. To most, this would be a death sentence. But for Chen, it's a golden opportunity. He's faced 30 of these things at once in his mental training space. This is just a refresher course. He takes a deep breath, centering himself. His blade hums with energy as he prepares for the onslaught. The trial he was looking for has finally arrived. The alpha wolf steps forward, its muscles rippling and its claws extending into lethal blades. It lets out a bone-chilling howl that echoes through the trees, signaling the final assault. The wolf strikes with a speed that would be invisible to a normal human eye. Chen meets it head-on, his sword flashing in a brilliant arc of white light as it connects with the beast's claws. The impact is thunderous, a shower of sparks flying as steel meets supernatural bone. Neither gives an inch, locked in a contest of pure strength and willpower. Chen is impressed. The creature's life intensity is level 7, equal to his own. He finally has a worthy opponent to test the true limits of his martial arts genius. Back at the Heicheng High School auditorium, everyone's glued to the big screen watching the tournament live. One of the officials pushes up his glasses, nodding that even a high-level martial artist would get stuck in a wolf den like that. The teachers discuss how only the top-tier elites from Heicheng could handle a situation this messy. A gray-haired official watches the feed intently, surprised that the kid is still standing. They check Chen profile and realize he's a total unknown who hasn't even left his home city before this. The official with the paperwork wonders if this is all just raw, natural talent. The gray-haired man points out that it's not just about his skill level, it's the way he fights. He asks for a deeper explanation on what makes the boy so different. The official explains that Chen is predicting attacks without even looking, which shouldn't be possible yet. He notes that the kid fights like a veteran who's had to crawl out from under a pile of bodies on the front lines. They assumed he had some secret training or high-level background info on these Bibai wolves. But looking at the records, he's just a normal kid from an ordinary family with zero connections. Back in the woods, Chen stands his ground as the pack circles him. Wolves lunge from every shadow, but his blade is already moving. He kicks off the forest breeze technique, a blue arc of energy slicing through the air. Chen quickly calculates the threat, realizing most of these beasts are even stronger than what he faced in the crystal space. He brings his sword down with a thundering war drum's strike, creating a massive explosion of light. The tip of his blade glints as he resets for the next wave. He jumps onto a tree trunk, using the height to keep the wolves at bay. Sweat drips down his face as he realizes he needs to find a way to break through his limits right now. He kicks off the tree, diving back into the center of the pack. The goal is to take out the leader first, while the others are caught off guard. He lands with a heavy slam, blue energy rippling out from his position. A wolf lunges at his head, forcing him to block with everything he's got. All the constant dodging is starting to take a serious toll on his stamina. He grits his teeth, knowing he has to finish this fight immediately or he's done for. Claws fly from every direction as the wolves try to overwhelm his guard. One of the beasts finally catches him, its claws leaving a dark gash across his torso. He ducks under a lunge, barely staying a step ahead of the group. He carves through a wolf's hide, but more are already leaping at his back. Another predator charges straight at him with glowing red eyes. He spins and parries, but the sheer force of the pack is pushing him to the edge. Another strike connects, and Chen vision begins to blur from the strain. The lead wolf lunges with a red aura, sensing that its prey is finally slowing down. He tells himself his sword has to be faster and heavier if he wants to survive this. A memory of his family flashes through his mind, his father laughing and his sister waving goodbye. He thinks back to the endless hours of training against the four-armed machine. His teacher's smile echoes in his thoughts, reminding him why he's fighting. This isn't just a tournament anymore. It's the moment that changes his entire life. He grits his teeth with a roar, his determination pushing past his physical limits. A dark silhouette with glowing eyes takes over as he commits everything to one final strike. A massive pillar of blue light erupts, obliterating the lead wolf and the entire pack in one shot. Chendu's eyes light up as he realizes the very feel of his sword movements is starting to flow differently. He's no longer just swinging a weapon, he's becoming a part of the storm swirling around him. A massive bibai wolf snarls, its eyes glowing with a feral red light as it prepares to lunge. Teacher Lin Yun stood monitoring the entire situation from afar, thinking to himself how foolishly easy it was for people in this world to trust one another. Teacher Lin Yun figured that the outcome of the match had already been decided long ago, and now was the perfect time for him to step in, stop everything, and clean up the rest for his students. But the teacher's calculations were instantly shattered to pieces when a massive surge of power suddenly erupted furiously from the wolf den. Chengdu stands with his back to the wreckage, blue energy rippling off his shoulders. A whirlwind of energy shreds everything in its path, leaving nothing but dust behind. He plants his foot firmly on the scorched earth, the dust still settling around him. The boy stands tall, his sword radiating a cold, blue fire that illuminates the clearing. He catches his breath, realizing that his blade is now perfectly in sync with the flow of the wind. He tightens his grip on the hilt, feeling stronger than he ever has before. A system notification confirms the impossible. His flowing light sword art has officially upgraded to 99% mastery. The massive screens in the auditorium show the aftermath of the battle to the stunned crowd. Teacher Lin Bei is floored, unable to believe a student could pull off a breakthrough in the middle of a death trap. The elder official notes that normally, the exhaustion alone would have killed any other student. Another teacher points out that Chengdu's power level seems way beyond what a Tier 1 student should be capable of. He suspects the boy's mental power is actually approaching level 10, which is unheard of at this stage. They realize they're looking at a student with the potential to become a legendary soaring martial artist. The gray-haired official explains that once his mental power hits level 10, his soul will evolve into a martial soul. He warns that reaching 100% mastery is the final, most difficult threshold he'll have to face. His colleague laughs, telling him he's being way too strict considering how outstanding the kid already is. In the stands, the students are confused as they see the Mi City team heading toward the wolf den. It finally clicks for everyone that the Mi City crew were the ones who pointed Chengdu's team toward the trap. A girl from the Mi City team asks Zhang Shuai if they can really loot the badges without any trouble. Zhang Shuai is confident that the teachers will have to step in and save them, which means an automatic loss for Liang City. He explains that once they're eliminated, the rules state their badges must stay right where they fell. He flashes a sinister, fanged grin, knowing there won't be any other teams or wolves left to stop them. He flips a badge into the air, already celebrating their easy win. The Mi City team finally arrives at the spot where they expected to find a massacre. Instead, they find a graveyard of wolf corpses scattered across the forest floor. Zhang Shuai breaks into a cold sweat as he realizes something is very wrong with this picture. One of his teammates spots the target and points it out. The badges are sitting right on top of the largest wolf corpse in the pile. The blue glowing badge sits undisturbed amidst the carnage. The team walks through the clearing, impressed that the teacher managed to kill every single wolf. Zhang Shuai stands among the bodies, feeling a deep sense of unease. His eyes dart around as he realizes they've overlooked a terrifying detail about how these wolves died. He suddenly screams for everyone to run, realizing the badges were just bait to lure them in. His teammate can't believe it, doubting that Chengdu could have cleared the entire den alone. A sudden slash of blue energy cuts through the air, silencing the conversation. Chen Du steps out from the shadows, calmly confirming that he really did kill them all by himself. Chen Du leads Mo Late and Liu Bo out from behind the bushes, surprising the Mi City team with their sudden appearance. He looks Zhang Xue in the eye, curious as to how the boy figured out they hadn't actually been eliminated. Zhang Xue pales, explaining that since supervising teachers are unarmed, they couldn't have sliced the wolves open with such precision. The memory of the savage beast wolves only makes the realization of Chen Du's strength more terrifying for the cowards who set the trap. A beast wolf snarls, its eyes glowing red as it prowls through the dark forest. In Chen Du's memory, Teacher Ling stands ready with various weapons during a training session. He realizes he still doesn't know the teacher's true weapon of choice and needs to stay more careful from now on. Back in the woods, Chen Du reaches down and pulls a blue badge from the fur of a dead wolf. Without a second thought, he tosses the badge behind him like it's trash. The teammate behind him is stunned. Chen Du isn't here for points, he's looking for a specific opponent. He checks the tracker on his wrist, trying to pinpoint where Wu Zhang is heading. It seems the official navigation is intentionally leading everyone straight into the jaws of the wolf packs. The team regroups, realizing the route they were given was nothing but a trap set by the organizers. Suddenly, a noise cuts through the air, putting everyone on high alert. Chen Du tells the hidden group to leave their badges and get out while they still have the chance. The intruders are caught off guard, clearly not expecting to be spotted so easily. He doesn't even look back, his gaze fixed on the goal ahead. As he walks away, he casually mentions he's just returning the favor for their help earlier. A sharp sound echoes as the rival team retreats into the shadows. Teacher Lao looks back with a scowl, clearly unhappy with the exchange. He starts lecturing Chen Du about having no martial ethics for going back on his word. Mo Late and the other teammate just look at him with total confusion. Chen Du stops and glances back over his shoulder at the complaining coach. He's not about to let a lecture from the guy who tried to trap them slide. He smirks, telling the teacher that in the real world, this is just called strategy and deception. Looking at the 2 badges they've secured, the team realizes they've actually completed the set. Mo Late is impressed they managed to snag both the high and martial badges in one go. But Chen Du is still focused on his map, his mind already calculating their next move. Mo Late asks if he's really going to go after Wu Zhang in his current condition. Chen Du admits he's too drained. Even a lower-tier fighter could give him a hard time right now. He needs to play it smart and avoid unnecessary fights for the rest of the round. Nearby, the rival coach beats a hasty retreat, carrying his defeated students away. Chen Du brings up a new holographic route on his wrist device. He points out a specific detour they need to follow to finish the assessment safely. The teammates look at the map, wondering why they're taking such a long detour. Mo Late points out that Wu Zhang's goal was likely the star mark behind them, at least until those wolves got in his way. Chen Du isn't quite convinced, wondering why Zhang Xue specifically used the word midway just now. Mo Late can only stare back as the realization starts to sink in. Mo Late starts to realize that the real danger isn't at the finish line, it's the trip there. Chen Du breaks it down. The entire forest was designed to funnel teams into wolf dens to force combat. The map graphic shows how the organizers rigged the path to maximize encounters with beasts. He warns the group that they can't afford to let their guard down until they've fully passed the round. The reality of how meticulously the competition was designed starts to sink in for Mo Late. The other teammate nods, fully understanding the gravity of the situation. A heavy footstep crushes the dirt, signaling that they aren't alone in this part of the woods. A hand pushes through the thick brush as someone approaches their position. Zhangshan appears on the ledge above, carrying his massive sword case and looking down at them. Chen Du's eye goes wide as he realizes they've run straight into the one team they weren't ready for. Zhangshan stands tall, his massive sword case strapped to his back as he looks down at Chen Du's team. Chen Du is sweating. He didn't expect to run into the High City team, who are famous for having perfect-level experts. Zhangshan closes his eyes, sensing the raw potential and strength hidden within Chen. Chen and Molate are both on edge, fully aware they're facing a Tier 1 perfect expert. The heavy wooden sword case slams into the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. It opens in an instant, revealing a lethal collection of swords ready for combat. Chendu's team prepares for a fight that seems completely unavoidable. But Zhou Xiaogu tells him to stop, her voice calm and authoritative as she steps forward. She notices the bloodstains on Chendu's gear and realizes he's already exhausted from fighting wolf packs. She smirks, telling him that whether it's him or Wu Zhang, she'll be the one to knock them out in the upcoming rounds. Zhou Xiaogu is full of confidence, boasting that her team is aiming for their 10th consecutive championship. Chen watches them walk away, surprised that she actually showed a sense of honor. He repeats her words to himself, still a bit skeptical about her heroic attitude. In his mind, he compares her to his own sister, the little girl selling nuclear bombs, and her unique idea of heroics. Zhangshan and Zhou Xiaogu walk off into the mist, discussing her decision to pass on an easy fight. Notes that her usual style is to finish opponents off quickly, without giving them a chance to breathe. She blushes and snaps back that they're on a live broadcast, and she has to maintain her public image. Night falls over the city, and the tournament participants finally retreat to their hotel rooms. Chen collapses onto his bed, finally finished with his grueling daily refinement plan. He checks his wrist display, noting that only 150 students managed to pass the first round. He calculates that he'll need to defeat at least 4 competitors tomorrow to keep moving forward. His mental power is currently at level 9, just a step away from a major qualitative change at level 10. He knows that reaching level 10 will practically guarantee him the top spot in the competition. To trigger that breakthrough, he enters the crystal space, a jagged, snowy mental training ground. He stands alone in the frozen landscape, his longsword already drawn and glowing with intent. A cold, blue aura flares around him as he prepares to face the next wave of challenges. The system alerts him that the 7th wave of monsters has officially arrived in the space. From the shadows, the menacing growls of powerful beasts echo through the snowy peaks. A massive silhouette emerges from the darkness, looming over Chen. He stares at the creature, immediately recognizing the lethal potential of this specific monster. It's the two-faced, three-bladed bear, a level 7 creature that radiates an overwhelming life force. The bear lunges forward with a roar, its giant paws swiping through the air with incredible speed. The force of its strike is immense, sending shockwaves through the ground as Chen blocks. Realizing he can't win through raw power, he decides to immediately change his angle of attack. He leaps high into the air, spinning to deliver a strike from a completely different direction. But the bear's reaction is faster than he anticipated, putting him on the defensive. He looks closely at the creature, finally understanding why it's called the two-faced, three-bladed bear. The beast swings its bladed arm, creating a massive explosion of energy that tears up the floor. Chen performs a tight flip in midair, narrowly avoiding the lethal shockwave. He lands and immediately repositions, knowing he must eliminate this monster tonight to raise his level. He dives back into the fight, his eyes focused as he looks for any opening in its defense. He goes for a strike on its neck, but the bear doesn't even bother to defend, proving it's not a weak point. Chen brings his sword down in a powerful arc, but the bear's head proves to be just as durable as the rest of its body. He grits his teeth, his eyes narrowing as he realizes his conventional attacks aren't doing any real damage. The bear continues its relentless assault, completely ignoring its own defense because its heart isn't a vulnerability. Chen dances around the beast, his mind racing to find a flaw in its seemingly perfect armor. The monster swings its massive arm, the air whistling with the sheer force behind the blow. He parries the strike, his blade vibrating from the impact as he feels the bear's overwhelming life force. As the beast moves, Chen notices a strange, quick twitch. The bear is deliberately moving its tail out of harm's way. His eyes widen in realization. The monster's tail is the only part of its body it's actually trying to protect. The bear roars, but its movements become slightly more erratic as it tries to keep its weakness hidden. Chen formulates a plan on the fly, deciding to feint an attack on the head to draw the beast's focus. "Now is the chance," he shouts, his internal energy flaring as he prepares to strike for real. He ducks under a swipe, the massive paw passing just inches above his head. The bear's eyes glow with a primal fury, but it has already fallen right into his trap. With a blindingly fast slash, Chen cuts through the air and severs the monster's tail. He stands victorious in the fatting light of the simulation, ready to see how many more tails he can find tonight. Night falls over the city, and the hotel lights start to flicker on as everyone settles in for the evening. Inside one of the rooms, Xiaogu is taking some time to relax with a face mask when her coach, teacher Zhang, calls for a quick meeting. He gets right to the point, asking if they remember that team from Liang City they saw earlier in the day. Xiaogu recalls a kid at the first stage peak, but Zhang warns her that Chen is the one they really need to worry about. He's likely their biggest hurdle to the championship. He reveals some crazy intel. Apparently, this guy managed to solo clear a medium-sized wolf den all by himself. Xiaogu is stunned, realizing that a feat like that usually means someone is at the absolute limit of the first stage. Teacher Zhang isn't sure he's quite there yet, but he's definitely reached a point of qualitative change, where his martial skills are evolving. Chen is shocked, realizing that this kid might actually be on the same technical level as Xiaogu. The coach stares them down, telling them they can never let their guard down, no matter who the opponent is. He then puts Xiaogu on the spot, asking her what she thinks her chances are if she actually has to face him. She calmly peels off her mask, looking completely unfazed by the threat. She's not backing down. She promises their 10th straight championship win will be flawless. The next morning, the tournament moves to a massive arena for the start of the second round. A huge screen displays the new bracket system, which has shifted to a high-stakes, single-elimination format. The tournament referee explains that it's all 1v1 now, and to keep things fair, everyone's raw power is being suppressed to level 5. Out of the 150 candidates, they'll keep whittling them down through several rounds until only the top 10 remain. The seeding is dynamic, too. The faster you finish your current fight, the earlier you'll get to fight in the next round. Chen listens closely, knowing that the longer you take, the more rest you might get, but finishing quickly has its own advantages. He looks down at his number, 16, realizing his team was the fourth one to qualify the day before. The brackets update on the screen, setting the stage for the first wave of matches. The tension in the arena builds as the top-tier fighters, including a stoic Chen and a grinning Musashi, prepare to go in. Chen locks in, sensing the intensity as the first match is announced. The crowd is losing it because the opening fight is already a clash between two major powerhouses. It's the Heicheng favorite, Xiaogu, going head-to-head against Musashi from the Lucheng team. Musashi has a manic grin on his face, clearly eager to start swinging. Xiaogu just gives him a bored look, completely unimpressed by his attempt at intimidation. People in the audience are already calling this the match that will set the tone for the whole tournament. They also note that Chen has been so dominant he hasn't even had to move from his spot yet. Chen watches from the wings, thinking this matchup is going to be very interesting to see. The official confirmation pops up. Life intensity for both fighters is locked at level 5. Xiaogu steps onto the arena floor, casually twirling her daggers with a confident smirk. Across from her, Musashi waits like a predator in the tall grass, his long hair blowing in the wind. He tells her he's been itching for this fight for a long time. She just brushes him off, telling him he can come find her at Heicheng High School anytime if he really wants a beating. Musashi draws his blade, eager to see if the invincible legend is actually all talk. Xiaogu doesn't wait. She lunges, her twin daggers becoming a blur as she tells him it's time to start believing. A massive shockwave rings out as their weapons meet for the first time. They exchange blows at crazy speeds, moving way faster than anyone else limited to level 5. The ground cracks as they collide again, sparks flying from the impact. Suddenly, a digital display appears, showing both fighters are at a staggering 90% in their martial skill index. The crowd is stunned to see the technical levels of the contestants shown in real time. A couple of students point out that their protective suits have chips that calculate their skill level based on how perfectly they are applying their power. A massive energy wave rips through the air as the clash reaches a boiling point. Jo Zyaogu is pushed back, her hair whipping around from the sheer pressure of the hit. Musashi slams his blade down with enough power to shatter the stage, blue light flaring everywhere. The martial skill index ticks up to 92% as Musashi keeps up his terrifying, wide-eyed grin. Zyaogu flips through the air, desperately trying to find a hole in his non-stop attacks. She realizes he isn't just swinging wild, he's staying perfectly on guard even when she's midair. He's playing it smart, aiming specifically for a supporting hand to disarm her. Zyaogu narrows her eyes, bracing herself for what's coming next. They collide again, sending another massive shockwave echoing through the stadium. The index on the big screen hits 99%, showing the crowd they're seeing peak-level technique. Musashi grips his hilt with both hands as a bone-chilling sword intent starts to leak from the blade. He unleashes a blinding blue energy blast that pushes his skill index even higher. He just laughs manically, even though Zyaogu managed to tag his shoulder and throw off his aim. Watching from the sidelines, Chen is completely confused. He can't recognize any of their basic moves. Zyaogu looks serious now, telling her opponent that the real fight is only just beginning. She lunges in with a purple energy flare, but Musashi's eyes glow as he tracks her every move. He locks onto her like a predator, his gaze as sharp as the edge of his sword. Zyaogu's twin daggers turn into a whirlwind of purple light as she tries to break through his guard. Every strike is a lethal exchange, and neither fighter is willing to back off an inch. In the stands, the scarred man leans over to Chen to explain the mystery of the final 1% of mastery. He asks if Chen really thought 100% was the next step after 99, while the kid is stuck on that weird 99.1% jump. The expert explains that this elite level is something called comprehension by analogy. Chen finally gets it. That's why the daggers are acting like staves and the sword is acting like a hammer. The trick is to use a weapon with different attributes to perform your basic skills all over again. It turns out Musashi is using his light sword to channel the crushing weight of a heavy hammer style. He's executing the chaotic cloak hammers, making his thin blade hit with the force of a wrecking ball. This is the first step of the technique, using a versatile sword to mimic the heavy forms of a hammer. Once you hit this level of intent, your opponent can't even tell what style you're actually using. Chen watches with wide eyes, realizing just how much more there is to learn. Zyaogu isn't falling behind, though. She's using her daggers to pull off staff techniques that have a massive reach. She stays focused, her movements becoming as fluid as a seasoned staff master. Her eyes snap to a tiny opening in Musashi's heavy swings. She goes for the kill, calling him out on the fact that a sword can't move exactly like a staff. Musashi just gives her an impressed smirk, acknowledging her high-level read. But his expression quickly turns dark as he calls out his next move. He unleashes the 3 hammers of Dark Winter, sending a giant blue wave of energy at her. Zyaogu thinks she's spotted a gap and charges straight into the energy field. That was exactly what he wanted. Musashi smirks, telling her she fell right into his trap. Before she can retreat, the trap snaps shut, and the look of pure terror on her face says it all. The screen flashes a number no one expected to see. Musashi's skill index has reached 99.9%. A massive pillar of energy erupts from the arena floor as he hits the near limit of human mastery. The arena is a total wreck, choked with dust after that last massive impact. Up in the stands, everyone is freaking out. They're all wondering if the invincible Jo Zyaogu finally met her match. We cut back to just a moment ago when the fight was hitting its climax. Her opponent was already celebrating, convinced he'd snatched the title for himself. Chen watches from the crowd, just glad he didn't have to face this guy while he was drained yesterday. The challenger goes all out, swinging his staff with everything he's got. It's the fourth stance of his Holy King technique, a move meant to crush an entire army. Jo Zairagu doesn't even flinch. She summons a massive wall of water to push back. A literal tidal wave erupts in the center of the ring, swallowing the entire stage. She hits 100% of the Tier 1 limit, showing off a level of mastery that's basically unheard of. The audience is stunned. Breaking that threshold at only 17 is the stuff of legends. With his weapon broken and his plan foiled, the guy has no choice but to give up. The dust settles, leaving Jo Zairagu standing tall while her rival admits his total defeat. Chen is a little annoyed. He was hoping they'd wear each other out more so he could pick up the scraps. In the VIP booth, the scouts are impressed. They knew she was good, but reaching the limit is another story. It turns out her team kept her true strength a secret, so they wouldn't psych out the other participants. Teacher Peng can't help but smile. That kind of fighting spirit is exactly what they're looking for. Teacher Yu agrees, the girl is truly outstanding. Given her father's high-ranking position, they figure she'll likely head to Black Dragon Martial Arts University. As she walks off, she looks like she barely broke a sweat. The scouts note that even the guy she beat is talented, but he's already been snatched up by another school. They're starting to worry they're too slow and wonder if there are any other hidden gems left in the pool. Chen stays focused. He knows these elite universities only have eyes for the absolute best. The screen flickers to announce the next matchup on the roster. The crowd settles in as the next pair of fighters is called to the stage. Some of the students are already yawning, thinking nothing can top the last spectacle. But then the names pop up. Chen from Liang City versus Jiu Dairen from Wang City. Suddenly, everyone is wide awake. They all want to see the guy who cleared a wolf den solo. Chen steps out, looking as calm and collected as ever. His opponent, Jiu Dairen, is ranked number 2 and is clearly feeling pretty confident. Chen just gives him a look. This might actually be interesting. Jiu Dairen sighs, acting like he's just aiming to scrape into the top 10. Chen doesn't buy the humble act. If the guy is that sure of himself, he better bring it. Jiu Dairen admits he's heard about the solo run yesterday and gives credit where it's due. But he's betting Chen is exhausted and doesn't have much left in the tank for today. The match kicks off instantly, both of them lunging forward in a blur. Their blades meet with a sharp clang, sparks flying as they test each other's strength. Both fighters are sitting at a 90% power index. This is a perfectly balanced duel. Jiu Dairen smirks, thinking he's found a weakness in Chen endurance. He pulls out his Muramasa style, focusing all his power into one invisible edge. His martial arts index spikes to 96%, putting him ahead in raw skill. A massive shockwave ripples out as their weapons lock, neither one willing to back down. Jiu Dairen puts everything into a final, desperate strike. Chen stays calm, picking apart the Muramasa technique's glaring flaw. It has power but no flexibility. Jiu Dairen smirks, convinced he can just wait for Chen to collapse from his supposed exhaustion. But he has no idea about the massive recovery boost Chen gets from his training space. Chen isn't interested in a long fight. He wants this over right now. Jiu Dairen's eyes widen when he realizes Chen is switching to a direct thrust-type art. He grits his teeth, refusing to be outdone in a head-on clash. He unleashes his Crescent Moon Sky Piercer, but Chen counters with the second stance of the Flowing Light art. The two techniques collide in a blinding flash of energy. In that split second, Chen martial arts index hits a staggering 99.3%. The sheer impact disarms Jiu Dairen instantly, sending his blade spinning into the air. He's left completely vulnerable, stunned by the sheer power behind the strike. Jiu Dairen gets sent sprawling across the arena floor. Even from the ground, he still tries to talk trash, mocking Chen ambition for a top 10 finish. As he heads out, Chen reminds himself to keep avoiding Jo Zairagu's sharp edge as long as he can. Up in the VIP booth, the two scouts are deep in a debate about Chen mental power stats. Teacher Peng isn't entirely sold yet, nodding that Chen performance is still just at the passing line. Teacher Yu reminds him of the strict criteria for their elite kill-in class, Level 10 mental power is non-negotiable. They look over the recordings again, comparing his technical skill to their elite standards. Regardless of his current level, they agree he's a much better prospect than the guy he just flattened. Teacher Peng suggests they try to track him down that night and get him to sign a letter of intent. As the sun sets on the second round, the students head back to their hotel, buzzing for tomorrow's finals. Back in his room, Chen takes a moment to relax, glad he could navigate the matches without exposing too much. But for him, relaxing means more training, and he dives right back into his virtual simulation. He goes back to hunting bear monsters, putting his fresh combat experience to the test. He moves like a shadow, his blade finding its mark with lethal precision. He can feel the progress in every swing, his movements becoming more fluid. Finally, the notification pops up. His life strength has increased from 5.8 to 5.9. He leaves nothing but digital remains in his wake. He's looking for a real challenge now, something that can actually push his new limits. He's determined to see exactly how much the tiny 0.1 increase changed his combat effectiveness. He waits for the next digital beast to emerge from the darkness. Back in the real world, his phone starts buzzing on the bed with a message from Teacher Ling. He checks in on her, asking if there's some kind of emergency this late. He walks into her room and finds her hosting the two recruiters he saw at the tournament. Teacher Ling introduces them as representatives from the elite Qilin Martial Arts University. Chen can barely believe it. Qilin is legendary, one of the top 3 institutions in the world. They explain they're in charge of the Qilin class, a program designed to produce the absolute strongest fighters. Chen is hesitant, honestly thinking his current stats shouldn't be enough to catch their interest. He asks why the requirements for mental power and life strength are set so incredibly high. Teacher Yu realizes that Chen teachers have left out some pretty crucial information. He starts explaining the hidden treasures, special nodes in the body that unlock once you become a true martial artist. Teacher Yu explains that meeting just one recruitment requirement before becoming a martial artist allows a person to open 2 hidden treasures at once. He adds that meeting both the martial skill and spiritual power requirements simultaneously could even unlock 3 treasures. There are 10 hidden treasures in total, each acting like a passive skill that boosts a martial artist's attributes. Chen listens intently, finally starting to understand the gap between ordinary fighters and true geniuses. Unlocking double treasures makes someone a genius, but triple treasures represent a peerless level of talent. Teacher Yu smiles, clearly seeing that kind of potential in the young man standing before him. Teacher Peng cuts in, offering Chen a C-rank letter of intent, making him a reserve candidate for the Qilin class. He explains that top-tier schools like Qilin, Black Dragon, and Heavenly Phoenix only recruit through these types of exclusive contracts. Upon signing, Chen would receive $1 million's worth of resources, including rare medicines and elite sparring partners. The contract even has an upgrade path to B rank if he meets the requirements before officially becoming a martial artist. Chen asks a critical question. If he signs, can his family move with him and settle down near the university? Teacher Peng shakes his head, explaining that current safety regulations only allow active martial artists to travel and relocate freely. Hearing that, Chen politely declines, apologizing for wasting their time. The 2 teachers are stunned, wondering if he's holding out for an offer from Black Dragon or Heavenly Phoenix. To their shock, Chen reveals he's interested in Huangshan Martial Arts University instead. Teacher Yu is flabbergasted. Huangshan is a respectable school, but it's nowhere near the level of the top 3. He can't believe Chen would choose a weaker institution over a guaranteed spot at Qilin. Chen explains his reasoning simply. He needs to stay close to his family to protect them from monster invasions. Teacher Peng points out the extreme rarity of entering the Qilin class, with odds lower than 1 in 1 million. He notes that over half of the world's most powerful martial artists are alumni of the top 3 schools. He urges Chen to think bigger, arguing that a true genius has the power and influence to protect far more than just one family. A slight, confident smile plays on Chen lips as he listens to their pitch. Despite their persuasive arguments, Chen stands his ground and officially passes on the contract. As the teachers leave the room, the hotel suite feels suddenly very quiet. Chen turns to teacher Ling, who has been watching the entire exchange in silence. She offers a warm smile, telling him that while advice is good, there's nothing wrong with walking his own path. She sighs as he leaves, realizing she'll have to work with the principal to find another way to convince him. Back at the Zhou family training ground, Zhou Xiaogu is hard at work. She swings her practice staff with everything she's got. Her movements are fluid, blue energy trailing behind every strike. She puts her whole soul into one final, powerful thrust. But her father stops her cold by catching the staff with just 2 fingers. He tells her she's been at it for 3 hours and needs to call it a day. She collapses onto the floor, grumbling about how she'll take him down one day. He tosses her a peach soda, telling her to focus on winning the championship tomorrow instead. She takes a sip, confident that her hidden trump cards will bring the win home for Chang. The scene shifts to the High City First High School auditorium, where the final stage is set. Chen makes his way through the halls as the atmosphere for the finals heats up. He suddenly stops, feeling like someone is watching him from the shadows. Up in the observation booth, the scouts are impressed he noticed them with just level 9 spirit. His companion points out the VIPs in the stands. All the major school principals have shown up. The announcer congratulates the top 10 finalists before laying out the new rules. It starts with a 1v1 round to narrow the field down to the top 5. After that, it's straight into a gauntlet match stage. One challenger will have to face the other 4 back-to-back to earn points. It's an endurance test designed to crown the ultimate champion. A win nets you 2 points, while a loss knocks 1 off your total. The system randomly draws the next challenger if there's ever a tie in scores. Chen calculates the risks, realizing the maximum score anyone can get is 8. He knows he can't afford to waste a drop of energy if he wants to survive the gauntlet. The first bracket pops up on the screen, Chen versus Zhangshan. The crowd is already talking trash, claiming Chen only made it this far by playing it safe. Chen ignores the noise, worried that the High City team is trying to drain his stamina early. The High City fans are already celebrating, expecting their favorites to sweep the podium. Teacher Yu watches from the stands, doubting if the match will even be competitive. He pulls out a card worth $1 million, planning to offer it to Chen as an investment once he loses. He respects the kid's talent, but he doesn't think he has the resources to pull off a win. Zhangshan steps onto the stage, that massive equipment still strapped to his back. Chen watches him closely, realizing he hasn't seen X's full power in any previous match. He decides to play it cool and see what his opponent does first. X smiles as he draws his blade, eager for the fight he's been waiting for. The air in the arena suddenly turns heavy. A massive shockwave ripples through the arena as they finally engage. Chen barely sees the strike coming. He catches the blow on his blade, stunned to see using the flowing light sword art. He admits he was just as surprised when he saw Chen use it yesterday. The 2 blades scream as they grind against each other, sparks flying everywhere. He tells Chen to forget about technicalities. This is going to be a battle of raw strength. Chen grinds his teeth as the pressure mounts, is going all out from the start. The crowd goes wild as they realize Zhangshan's martial arts index is at 99%, exactly the same as Chen puts his back into the fight, shouting that the match is far from over. A massive surge of energy erupts from X's blade as he pushes his limit. Chen grinds his teeth, wondering if his opponent has also achieved mastery through analogy. X launches into the air, bringing his sword down with crushing force. Chen realizes it's not just a strange aura, it's spirit power attachment, making every blow heavier. The system updates X's index to 99.2% as the pressure in the arena hits a fever pitch. X lands and immediately resets his stance, ready for the next exchange. Chen knows he has 4 more people to beat today. He can't afford to let this duel drag on. X taunts him, asking if he's ever going to go on the offensive. Chen Du's gaze sharpens as he decides to end the battle in an instant. He initiates the fourth form of his sword art, the Azure Dragon's Pierce. He charges forward with blinding speed, leaving a trail of blue light in his wake. He prepares to meet him head-on, confident that a direct clash favors his heavier style. But mid-strike, Chen Du shifts his entire momentum into the second form, Golden Shock. Before can even react, Chen Du transitions again, this time into the third form, Clear Forest Breeze. With a final cold parting word, he executes the decisive strike. The blade passes clean through X's defenses, leaving a deep gash across his chest. X stands there in shock, unable to comprehend how he was defeated so quickly. The system confirms the result. Chen Du's mastery reached 100%, achieving a limit martial art. Chen Du just hit 100%. The system pops up a notice that he's officially reached the limit martial level. The spectators are losing their minds. Nobody ever seen a perfect score like that in person before. The crowd goes wild. People are starting to realize this kid has been hiding his true strength the entire time. He's definitely the tournament's biggest dark horse. Even his opponent, Chen, can't find the words. He's just starring, trying to make sense of what just happened. He's totally confused. He didn't feel any of the limit intent you'd expect from a Tier 1 master. Chen Du doesn't stick around to explain. He just gives a wave and walks off as the winner. Thinks he's being sneaky, probably trying to keep his secrets for the rest of his team. Up in the stands, the principal of Liang City No. 1 is just as shocked. Improving 1% in a single day is technically impossible. Teacher Yu is starting to wonder if they were even watching the same person yesterday. Teacher Peng thinks it's way too extreme. Calling it a martial soul would be a massive exaggeration. Another scout walks up, asking why they didn't invite him to watch the match. It's Zhou Cheng, looking pretty smug with a drink in his hand. He's bragging about his daughter, Zhou Xiaogu. He says she's got the potential to be a skywalking martial artist. The scarred man admits Chen Du is good, but he's more excited to see what happens next. He didn't expect the top seeds like Zhangshan and Valo to get taken out so easily. Over in the Heicheng camp, things are looking tense. The whole squad is banking on one person. Zhou Xiaogu grabs her staff and starts heading for the stage. The fans are screaming her name. She's their sea princess for a reason. This is her opponent, and he's ready. He figures his defense can hold out until she shows an opening. She doesn't waste any time. One quick strike is all it takes. Just like that, the Sea Princess takes the win for her squad. Her opponent didn't even see it coming before he was sent flying. The crowd loses it. She ended that match in literally 1 second. Chen Du is watching closely. He knows the next round is a gauntlet, and he's probably next on her list. Sure enough, Zhou Xiaogu's name stays on the board. She looks completely unfazed, ready to sweep the rest of the tournament. She points right at Chen Du. He's the first one she wants to challenge. He's not surprised. He can tell she's strong and confident, exactly the kind of challenge he needs. He actually gives her a little smirk. This is perfect. They both step onto the stage, and the atmosphere shifts immediately. Xiaogu isn't holding anything back. Her index hits 100% too. Now we've got 2 limit geniuses facing off. She launches an attack immediately, trying to end the match right at the start. Chen Du can feel the pressure. This is limit intent, the kind of power that borders on metaphysics. She calls out her Holy King Staff technique. It's a move called flooding the 1,000 armies. A massive wave of energy crashes down toward Chen Du. But he manages to deflect the brunt of the power. Xiaogu is actually impressed. She didn't expect him to have the skills to handle that. Chen Du stands his ground, but something is changing. A strange blue aura starts flickering around him, and even the crowd is starting to notice. Zhangshan can hardly believe it. Chen Du actually pulled it off. Teacher Yu is staring in shock. He realizes that Chen Du's soul hasn't just grown, it's fully evolved into a martial soul. With his spirit power hitting level 10, Chen Du stands there radiating power, ready for the real fight to begin. Zhou Xiaogu isn't giving him a second to breathe, lunging forward with a shout to take the initiative. She's stunned, though. She can tell he's moving way faster than he was just moments ago. She's a blur of motion, trying to keep up with his sudden speed boost. But Chen isn't just faster. He's more precise, turning on a dime to stay out of her reach. They're trading blows at a breakneck pace now. Xiaogu is starting to sweat. Every time their weapons meet, his strikes feel heavier and heavier. She wonders if this is the true power of a martial soul attachment. She grits her teeth and pushes her limits, determined to find a way through his defense. And then she thinks she sees it, a tiny opening in his stance. But Chengdu's eyes are cold and focused. He's already 10 steps ahead of her. Their weapons lock, the air around them humming with the intensity of their clashing spirits. Suddenly, Xiaogu realizes her center of gravity is completely off. She has to adjust, and fast. She tries to regain her footing, but she's already lost her momentum. Chengdu sees the shift. He knows he's finally broken her rhythm. He realizes that if he keeps the pressure on and doesn't let her reset, this match is as good as won. Blue energy flares as they collide again, the stage nearly cracking under the strain. Xiaogu is still shouting that she can win, refusing to back down even as the tide turns. She plants her foot, desperate to hold her ground. But Chengdu is surging forward now, convinced that he really can take down the Sea Princess. Up in the stands, the principal of Liang City No. 1 is laughing. He can't believe the kid was hiding level 10 mental power this whole time. Teacher Yu is basically a cheerleader at this point, screaming for Chengdu to finish it. Teacher Peng is already thinking ahead, deciding that Chengdu is definitely worth a B-class contract now. He realizes they're going to have to be a lot more persuasive to get him to sign this time. Teacher Yu turns to Xiaogu's father, Zhou Cheng, mocking him for being so calm while his daughter is about to lose. But Zhou Cheng just gives him a knowing smirk. He knows his daughter better than anyone. He warns them that something unexpected is about to happen. And he's right. Suddenly, Chengdu feels the weight of the air change as Xiaogu's power starts to skyrocket. She acknowledges that he's actually pretty good. She tells him that even her strict father would call him a genius. But, she adds with a grin, I'm a genius among geniuses. Chengdu is nearly blinded by the flare of her spirit. She has a Tier 1 limit martial art and level 10 mental power too. The clash that follows is on a completely different level than anything before. He's pushing his speed to the absolute limit just to stay in the game. Their weapons meet in a shower of sparks and spirit energy. Chengdu is pouring everything he has into his sword, the blue aura around him turning into a roar of power. Xiaogu is right there with him, her eyes glowing with the thrill of a real challenge. They collide one more time, the force of it sending shockwaves through the entire arena. Someone's footing gives way, their boots sliding across the stone floor. And as the dust settles, Xiaogu stands there, looking down with the absolute confidence of someone who's just revealed her true self. The air crackles as Xiaogu and Chengdu clash, their spirits flaring in a dazzling display of blue energy. Every strike is parried, their weapons singing as they meet with bone-jarring force. Xiaogu notices something. Chengdu's strikes feel weaker. She asks if he's finally running out of steam. She looks him in the eye, convinced that this match is hers to win. She admits he surprised her, but tells him it simply wasn't enough to bridge the gap between them. But Chengdu just smirks, telling her that she doesn't get to decide when it's over. His gaze sharpens, focused on a plan he's been holding back. Suddenly he shouts out his true trump card, a mental shock combined with a war stomp. His eyes erupt with blue lightning as he unleashes a massive wave of mental energy directly at her. Xiaogu realizes too late why his physical strikes felt weak. He was funneling all his power into his eyes for this attack. The world around her becomes a blur of blue energy as the mental shock hits her like a physical blow. She cries out in pain, her own spirit struggling to fight off the intrusion. She looks around, completely disoriented as the arena seems to dissolve. She realizes with horror that Chengdu's mental power is far beyond what anyone expected. She's trapped in a mental illusion. Before her, a pillar of blue fire roars into the sky. A strange, terrifying sound echoes in the void, and she looks up in terror. A colossal, dark figure with a single glowing red eye towers over her, a manifestation of Chen Du's mental pressure. She stands frozen before the visualization giant, feeling her resolve beginning to crumble. Outside the illusion, blue lightning arcs around her as she's forced to her knees. She coughs up blood, the mental strain manifesting as physical injury as she tries to hold onto her weapon. Chen Du stands his ground, his sword wreathed in blue flames as he prepares for the final move. He remains calm and detached, the image of a true martial artist who has already secured victory. The audience is in total disbelief, screaming for Xiaogu to move, unable to understand how the Sea Princess could be losing. She tries one last desperate strike, but her movements are sluggish and unfocused. And just like that, it's over. Chen Du stands over her as the announcer declares him the winner. The scarred man watches from the shadows, his expression unreadable but intense. He whispers Chen Du's name to himself, vowing never to forget the boy who just changed everything. Nearby, the scouts are having an intense discussion. Teacher Peng realizes that Chen Du's mental power is already approaching level 15. He declares that with his potential, Chen Du is already a quasi-A-class talent. Teacher Yu is shocked. Signing an A-class contract is incredibly rare, especially for someone they just found. He knows that a contract of that level requires direct authorization from their university's principal. Determined not to let this talent slip away, he uses his wrist comm to contact the principal immediately. The hologram of Pang Tianwen, the principal of Qilin Martial Arts University, appears, looking thoughtful behind his beard and glasses. He recognizes Chen Du's talent, but points out a major problem. Moving his family to the first biosphere would break the rules of their civilization. Teacher Yu pleads his case, nodding that other schools are already signing a class students this year. He argues that if they sign Chen Du now, they might finally have a chance to break their third-place streak in the upcoming freshman tournament. The principal goes quiet for a moment before telling them he needs time to think it over. By that afternoon, the atmosphere is celebratory. The principal of Liang City No. 1 High School places a gold medal around Chen Du's neck on the champion's podium. As he stands there, Chen Du reflects on his victory, knowing it was his secret training against the bears in the crystal space that gave him the edge. He's humble enough to realize that if Xiaogu had known what he was planning, she never would have let him get so close. But he pushes the what-ifs aside. He fought, he won, and that's all that matters. Later, back at the school, the principal sits in his office, ready to receive a visitor. Back at the school, a staff member walks down the quiet hallway towards the principal's office. She enters and asks why he didn't attend the awards ceremony, nodding that the event is over and everyone has already left. Inside, the scarred man sits in the shadows, rubbing his face as he contemplates the events of the day. He tells the staff member that he'll meet Chen Du another time, as he'll be returning to the Extreme Martial Palace soon. With a look of grim focus, he officially declares the launch of the Dynasty Plan. The staff member bows her head in acknowledgement, understanding the weight of the order. Across town, the sun shines brightly over a tall apartment building where a celebration is just getting underway. A table is spread with a magnificent feast, the delicious aromas filling the air of the warm dining room. Chen Du's father laughs with pride, raising a toast to his son for his incredible championship win. The whole family is gathered around the table, basking in the joy of Chen Du's hard-earned success. Chen Du smiles warmly at them, grateful that the prize money will finally provide the financial security his family needs. They clink their glasses together in a heartfelt toast, celebrating the simple but profound happiness of being together. As evening falls, the sky glows with the soft colors of sunset over the quiet city streets. Chen Du and his sister walk together, her voice filled with curiosity as she asks why he's decided to move into the school dorms. She tells him with a determined look that she plans to train just as hard as him to bring honor to their family name. He gives her a proud, encouraging smile, telling her that she'll have to put in the work to make that a reality. Their walk is suddenly interrupted when Chen Du comes to a dead stop, his gaze locking onto something ahead. His sister blinks in confusion, wondering why her brother has suddenly grown so tense. She jokes that it must be a crowd of his new fans coming to block their way home. But Chen Du's expression is deadly serious, his eyes narrowing as he senses a lethal threat lurking in the shadows. A massive, dark figure wreathed in purple energy emerges, a silver demon that should never be inside the city. Chen Du is shaken by the sight. The presence of such a monster suggests a catastrophic failure in the city's defenses. He realizes that since no alarm has sounded, the creature must have been hiding in the city for a long time. He grits his teeth, his jaw tightening as he prepares to defend his sister against an enemy he never expected to face here. It's got 8 barbs on its back. That means this thing is a level 8 monster. Chen Du doesn't hesitate. He tells his sister to get out of there immediately. The beast's claw swings down with terrifying speed. Chen Du is barely keeping it together under the pressure. The alley is completely deserted. There's no one around to help them. He left his sword at home, so he desperately scans the area for anything he can use as a weapon. He spots a piece of steel rebar sticking out of the rubble and yanks it free. It's not a sword, but it's all he's got. The monster's fist comes flying in like a wrecking ball. Chen Du locks in, focusing everything on his next strike. He executes his flowing light sword art, treating the metal rod as a blade. A burst of blue energy erupts as the improvised weapon connects with the beast. But there's a flaw. The rebar doesn't have the flexibility needed to fully pull off the move. The monster doesn't give him a moment's rest, looming right over him. Another massive collision sends shockwaves through the street. Chen Du is forced back, barely managing to stay on his feet after the impact. He realizes the power gap is too wide. This thing is way beyond his current level. If he can't win, his only option is to find an opening and run. He tells his sister to stay back and not move. But she steps forward instead, shouting at the monster to leave her brother alone. Chen Du's heart drops when he sees her put herself in danger. The beast shifts its focus and lunges straight for her. He screams for it to stay away from his sister. In a moment of pure desperation, he triggers his war stomp. The mental shock hits the monster, paralyzing it in its tracks. The life-or-death pressure pushes his sword art mastery even higher. He realizes he doesn't need a real blade. The rebar can become his sword if he believes it. He delivers a crushing blow that lights up the dark alley. But the strain is too much, and the metal rod snaps in his hand. His only weapon is gone, leaving him completely exposed. The steel bar strikes the monster's head perfectly. But it shatters into pieces, leaving Chen Du in complete shock. Knowing he can't drag out the fight without a weapon, he tosses the useless iron bar aside. He grabs his sister and makes a run for it. He tells Little Bear to send out an emergency distress signal immediately. But the monster is speeding up, leaving him almost no time to react. Help from the City Defense Corps won't make it here before the next hit. Chen Du decides to use the momentum of the monster's punch to throw his sister to safety. Just as the killing blow is about to land, a new force intervenes. A sudden, precise strike hits the monster right in the head. Chen Du looks up, breathless, still holding his sister close to him. A soldier from the City Defense Corps stands over the dead monster, reporting that the target has been eliminated. Hu Qiang from the City Defense Corps introduces himself, mentioning they got a tip about the monster just in time. His sister is still visibly shaken, barely able to find her voice after the attack. Chen Du keeps it professional, introducing himself as a student from Liang City No. 1. Meanwhile, the principal is watching the entire scene play out from a distance. Lin Yun reports that Chen Du's mental attack was strong enough to completely sever her control over the demon. The principal brushes it off, saying Chen Du is still unrefined, and it's a good thing they had a backup plan nearby. He orchestrated this whole chance encounter just to give Chen Du a much-needed wake-up call. Cut to the school's martial arts building later that night. Chen Du is alone in the training room, scrolling through his wrist device. His sister sends a message thanking him for the cash and praising his bravery, promising to keep the secret. He stares at his arm, the adrenaline from the fight finally starting to fade. Looking at his injuries, He realizes he was being far too naive about the dangers of this world. He clenches his fist, a new sense of urgency taking over. The memory of the monster's power still feels heavy in the room. He remembers how effortlessly it broke through his makeshift weapon. He realizes that if a real disaster hits, he'll never have enough time to save his family from a distance. He knows he's too weak. Raw life intensity crushed him despite the monster's low technique. To bridge that gap, he needs the kind of massive resources only top-tier universities can provide. Just staying by his family's side isn't enough to actually keep them safe. He needs to get strong enough to wipe out any enemy before they can even make a move. A sudden chime at the door interrupts his thoughts. The principal lets himself in, carrying a gift box and a wide smile. He tells Chen it's a special reward for everything he's done recently. The man explains that winning the championship far exceeded his expectations and set a new record for the city. That victory kicked off a massive boost for the school's reputation and his own professional standing. It's like a chain reaction of success that's taking the whole city to a new level. Chen accepts the gift, offering a quiet word of thanks. He reaches into the fridge for a drink, trying to shake off the lingering tension. He asks how the principal knows his way around this room so well. The man reveals it used to be his own personal training space, but it fits Chen better now. Then he notices Chen clothes are a mess, looking like he's been rolling in the dirt. Chen decides that since it's his principal, it shouldn't count as spreading the secret of the attack. He tells the man there's something he needs to ask to put his mind at ease. He asks point-blank why a high-level monster like a silver demon was wandering the city streets. The principal acts horrified at first, checking to see if Chen was injured. But then he smirks, admitting he was just waiting for Chen to finally ask that. Chen doesn't back down, demanding to know what's really being hidden from them. The principal gets serious, explaining that the truth is a secret only for elite martial artists. Chen listens intently, the gravity of the situation finally sinking in. The man warns him that the truth is so terrifying, it could cause the entire civilization to collapse if it ever got out.